Hello, everyone. This is Defense Politics Asia, and welcome to the DPA Open Mic. Not sure if you hear that. I'm going to repeat again. Hello, everyone. This is Defense Politics Asia, and welcome to the DPA Open Mic episode. I think 10. Yeah. Or is it 11? Oh God, I kind of messed up. Is it 11? Oh, sorry, it's 11. Oh my God, 11. So hi everybody. Let me change. I posted it everywhere, and then I realized that it's actually 11. Let me amend. Okay, let me correct my mistakes. Give me a while. Let me settle this, and then I can say hi to you guys. God, I always confuse the episode numbers. Like the last time I also 10, I put 9 and all this kind of thing. So currently the open mic is now being streamed on 2 different channels, and the main channel as well as the open mic. And you might also notice that the quality of this seems to be better because I paid for a more expensive subscription. So now the video is HD. So it's like high definition now is 1080 1080 rather than 720. So the quality is going to be better. And so I just want to say hi to the people that has been here for some time. Donetsk People's Republic, Albert, Rick Lee, Theodoric, Ghoul, George Smooth, Flicking Bullocks, Edmund, Sleazer, Barbarossa, David King, Marco, Lex, Date Shot, Fabio. And so currently it's being streamed live on both sides. But my plan is this. To encourage you guys to go from the main channel over to subscribe and watch over at the DPA IRL channel. The main channel stream will end around 1 hour mark or 2 hour mark. So to just force you guys to jump over to the other side and subscribe over to the other side. So I'm not manipulating you guys. So yeah. So too bad you guys are gonna get manipulated. And hi Ugly Toad, hi Rishikiran Devarjoti. Don't know pronounce correct now. So let's. Hi Ocean, how Johnny Bravo, how Marco. And anyway, so now I'm gonna drop the stream link. So for those that want to be on the open mic, you want to share your opinion, chit chat live with your face, with me and the other, most likely regulars, because the regulars always are around. Do pop over to DPA IRL channel. I'll be dropping the invite link. It will be pinned in the chat. So yeah, I really like the HD, 20, the 1080, pay a bit more money seems to be worth it. So okay, let me get the link. Where's the link? Oh, it's in front of me. Oh my god. Okay, copy. So I'm gonna type the message. This is the IRL one. Invite link. You will need to have a webcam, earphone, and webcam, earphone, and what? Webcam, earphone, and you have to show your face in order to join. And and remember to subscribe. Right. Okay. Show. Oh, I know. I remember one more. Earphone, and then off the stream audio. The YouTube stream audio. I dropped the link inside the DPA IRL channel, and it's now pinned. And give me a while. I also need to take my earphone. Where's my earphone? I'll be right back. I'm going to take my earphone. Okay, holy shit, I cannot find my earphone, so I'm gonna use my older earphone. I forgot where I put my. If no one is logged in yet, so sorry for me being away. My preparation is shit. So, is it long enough to connect here? Okay, let's connect here. Okay. This is the first time I have to do this. Can you guys hear me? So let me check whether I can hear myself. Okay, good. The earphone is working. If you guys hear me, good. Glenn said you can hear me. So cool. So anyone want to talk? You can come on to DPA IRL channel, and the invite link is over there. I'm gonna write the link. Here. To join, the invite link is in the stream on the DPA IRL channel. Pin chat. Let's drop the message on the main channel as well. So so since no one is up yet, I'm gonna just address some of the things that people say. So Merry Christmas to everyone. In case I haven't watched any of my videos, Merry Christmas to you. And also today is Boxing Day. So Boxing Day doesn't really mean this boxing. I just thought it's funny, and I actually forgot what's the meaning of Boxing Day. So anyway, there's a tradition. Just Google it, and yeah, Rishikiran Divajoti say I pronounced almost correctly, so that's very good. I caught his name pretty well. So he said that India and Singapore have good defense cooperation, and yes, Singapore Air Force is actually pretty powerful, and so please don't do 6 hours today. 5 hours is actually quite painful. Hopefully we'll do 3 hours. No, but I will see. I will actually depends on the dynamics. How the chat goes. If the chat goes really well, then I will just extend it. But no, not more than 5 hours. 5 hours is really too long. What else? Russia still taking Bakhmut, of course. Russia is fighting really hard for Bakhmut, and I think DPA for every Russian soldier killed, you will have 5.31 Ukrainian soldiers. I don't know where you get the number, but the safest way to ascertain is that 1:1. That's the best way. So if the Ukrainians say they killed 100,000 Russian soldiers, then they have also lose 100,000 not US soldiers, Russian soldiers. Then Ukraine will have lost 100,000 soldiers as well. That is the best way to put it. What else? So we have someone on stream now. Hi, Fabio.
Hi, Bob.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you. That's the first time
Cool.
I tried this out. So.
Oh, welcome to the Open Mic. You are the first guy here today.
Hope not the only one.
If it's the only one, then it will be like an interview, Then we will just chat all the way until we get sick of it. But I'm
Right.
sure usually people will join. Where are you from?
I'm from Switzerland, and
Switzerland.
I'm following the conflict of the Ukraine for 8 years now, more in detail, as for reading the OSCE reports during the Civil War, and moreover, and yes, I'm also interested in your channel as well.
Thank you so much. So do you put yourself as a pro-Ukraine, pro-Russia, or just neutral?
As I'm Swiss, so you can imagine that my first answer to that is neutral, and but I do understand the less favorable position of Russia, as well as the European one.
Yeah,
So I
Singapore
see the
is
conflict in a more in a bigger scale. As for a Cold War policy which never have ended by the US and which is going on.
I think Singapore is also like Switzerland. We actually follow Switzerland for a lot of things. We always aspire to become the Switzerland of Asia. So we are also largely neutral, largely. Although I don't think Switzerland has been very super neutral. I think they have participated in sanctions, right?
Yes, we did. And it happened by a huge pressure by the US and the European Union on us. And this is a new land for us, because during the Second World War, there was also this pressure against Switzerland from both sides, just to be on one side. We resisted on that, and this time our government simply flipped and joined the sanctions very easily. And that we see this as very problematic, because we are the nation where peace talks will happen after conflict. So
Yes.
where to go then? To Alaska? I don't know. Or
Yeah,
to
so
the Antarctic.
now the peace talks are supposed to happen in Turkey now. Yeah, because Switzerland, I don't think the Russians see Switzerland as neutral now, which is why
They do see, but they're a little bit angry. And also the European Union is angry because we are too neutral for them, because we don't have not delivered the ammunition for the tanks. We have not delivered all the necessary things the Germans wanted to deliver. And we have been sanctioned a little bit by Germany, by the way. So
sanction.
I think it's a
Can
good
explain
sign
more?
that both sides accuse us not being neutral enough.
Not neutral, yeah, but the European Union don't really want you to be neutral, right? They wanted the permission to use the ammo
Of
that
course,
Germany needs. Yeah, but I think Germany is very happy that Switzerland don't allow.
a
Then
little bit,
yeah,
but it's against our constitution to deliver any kind of weapons or parts of it to a warfaring country. So it is simply impossible by our constitution. And it's very strange that they still insist that we should do that. How? Without changing our constitution first.
yeah. Hi, Aki.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, good. So we were talking about Switzerland and how they are like bullied into taking a side, which me in Singapore knows very well. We also um, take a very unprecedented position on the war. So like Singapore is also like Switzerland. We are supposed to be neutral. We always don't take sides, but or at least since the end of Vietnam War. But we are also forced into taking sanctions on Russia, and that have a tremendous backlash in the population in Singapore. It's like the people are asking, why the hell are we sanctioning Russia? So when we didn't sanction America for their illegal wars, so why we are so special to this? Hi, Alan.
Hey, Alan.
Yeah.
So
What? Austria.
Aki's sorry.
What about Austria? I heard that Austria also has neutrality like enshrined in their constitution. So what about them? Does anybody know?
Do you know, Fabio?
Limited. It's more limited neutrality, of course. They're also in partnership of peace with NATO, taking also part just because on the military point of view. So they're part of the European Union, part of the political sphere of NATO and the European Union. Switzerland is neither in a military alliance nor in a union as the European Union. So that's the real difference. As for other countries to see if Austria is neutral or not, so they're biased in the point of view of the other conflict nation, as Russia, for example, from the very beginning.
How does the Swiss people think about the war?
That's what I was going to say.
Well, I can only tell you from the German part of Switzerland, the 4 language parts, and we read the German newspapers. So it's a heavy influence from there. So I would say 70% of all Swiss believe that Putin woke up in the morning, ate something wrong, and just decided to declare war to Ukraine. Yes.
Seems appropriate.
Sounds logical, right? It makes total sense.
But that's how a lot of people see it,
like,
because it's such an easy thing to believe.
Pardon?
It's such an easy thing to believe, not just in Switzerland, but across a lot of the world, right? Instead of having to learn about the complex, like, geopolitical chess game that's been played for the last 8, 12, 20 years, Putin's a bad guy. He's just a meanie. He's a bully, and he wants to do mean things. And that's a whole can of worms onto like the Western view. Yeah, it opens up a big view onto how people view the world.
Well, it's also conditioning. Like, if you think about it, like if they keep telling everybody the same thing over and over and over again, eventually you're gonna start believing it. So
Yeah.
I think that plays a big role. Especially, I'm from Canada, so especially there, half the people don't really care about it. Like, some people do, some people don't, but for them, Russia is a faraway land that they don't really care about. And it's more like, okay, it's easier to just learn bits and pieces than to really dive deep into it to know more about it. And once, like, the more they feed this lie on news, the more everybody keeps believing it.
Well, I see a simplification of the conflict from the very beginning, as every point headed to Putin, not to the Russian Federation, not what the nation decides to do. It's simply one person, and it's very easy to turn this very person into a villain, like in a movie. So Batman against Joker, and so on. And this is simplification of a conflict, and it has influence on the normal citizens, which are coming back from work, have 10 minutes time to watch the news, and they will be convinced by that.
Yeah. So like for my mom, every day she's very religious about watching the news. Like, the times 10 p.m. she will start to on the news and watch the national news, and it and she basically gets all the news there. She don't read newspapers and everything. So it's I can imagine how easy it is to just believe how the world is just by depending on the news broadcast.
Kind of just coming to a conclusion based on the information you're given.
Hi, Ralph. Ralph, where are you from? No sound.
He muted himself. He doesn't want to talk to us.
Hi, Mason. Mason is one of our the super supporter of the Open Mic. So, Commander. Ralf,
remember.
Yes?
There's been a lot. He donated, I think like two open mics ago. He donated like 4 or 5 times in a row. We're just having like a conversation with the chat, or maybe that was someone else.
Yeah, a few. There's I think 2 or 3 or 4 of them. Always very supportive of DPA. So I'm very appreciative.
I'd love
Ralfs,
to
I
have
think
them come on though. You know.
Yeah, but some people they just don't want to show their faces.
Yeah,
I
that's
talk
fair.
to a lot of people on Discord. They really want to talk. They want to share, but they don't want to show their face. So that's too bad.
You hear me now?
You all right? Hear you now, man.
Okay. Yeah, your question was, I'm from Latvia.
Ah, yes, someone from the Baltics.
Finally,
But I don't live there anymore, so.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay, so you just like Ellen.
I live in Ireland.
So would you call yourself Latvian or Irish?
Latvish.
By now, I would say more Irish than Latvian. Yeah.
So can you do you still keep in contact with people in Latvia?
I personally wouldn't. It would be only my parents that would be contacting them. Other than that, no. I'm very distant from it now.
Your parents
I've
is
been
still in
living in
Latvia?
Ireland for like. Sorry?
Your parents still in Latvia?
No, they live in Ireland as well. So there's no reason for me to really have contact with anyone from Latvia anymore. So that's why.
So what's your perspective? What's your position on the war?
I mean, I could go on a tangent because as
Go ahead,
Latvians, they have a long history with Russians and all other ethnic groups around. But I would say pretty neutral. I mean, you can argue like both sides. Like, yeah, I mean, what they have done, like the invasion, is it a good idea or bad? But to me, it doesn't. I mean, if it doesn't affect me, I mean, I don't care. It's really that simple. I mean, you can't really.
Do you think? Do you think
That's
that
why I think so.
might affect you, like your day-to-day life, if it escalates?
I live in Ireland, so
Yeah, nobody won Ireland.
nobody would bother Ireland. To be
England
honest,
does.
you know.
England hates you guys.
Well, to be honest, we don't like them either that much. I mean,
Yeah.
Irish still hate the English, even though we might be cool with them. I mean, there's still grudges.
That's a hard sell.
That's
a hard sell to say that you're cool with them, man.
No, I mean it is true. Like the time of troubles, like it still has that ramification where people still don't like the Catholics and Protestants, and people have told me of many stories about it, and it's
When do you move to Ireland?
Back in 2009. I'm 13 years here now, so yeah, it's been a long time.
Oh, I thought you were 13 years old. I was like,
I know.
Man, these kids are getting younger and younger every day, man.
yeah, what baby powder are they drinking, man?
No, actually, I'm 25, so I don't think I look 13. I didn't know I looked like 13.
Yeah, so I was like, I heard wrongly the first time round. I was like, what?
No. 13 years in Ireland, so yeah, I left when I was no, I actually 15 years in Ireland. I left when I was 10.
So you don't really experience the conflict, right? The Irish,
No.
British.
No, it's all like past. No one even talks about it. Even like it's very rare. Everyone's just moving on, doing thing. Like most of the people are pretty happy with their lives, so no, nothing like that.
Is there like any like tension that we should know of? Because no one reports on Ireland. No, people forget that it's even a country in Europe. Like I play with my daughter,
Sure.
we try to name the countries in Europe. Ireland never come out. Not even from me. I can't even remember that there's Ireland. I thought it's part of the British Empire kind of thing.
I mean,
That's
you say that to an
insulting.
Irish person, I'm not sure what he's gonna say that back to you. But no, there's no tension. Like, even I would even like as a who has lived here so long, I would even be happier to see that Ireland unifying. Uh, I see that as like their land, but no conflicts, no nothing like that. Everyone's pretty chill. Not everything that what has happened. So
Have they solved the Eurozone thing, the Schengen zone thing? Have they resolved it? Because Brexit, right? So Northern Ireland and Ireland, the country.
yes, I'm not sure what's going on because as
Oh no.
you can
He's
still
winging it.
drive through the border, no problem. Because when I go to college, I have to drive through the border as well. It's I'm not sure what they're gonna do about. It's a big issue. They cannot put a hard border, or it's gonna be a time of troubles again, all over again. Like there's absolutely no way they could put a hard border. So I'm not sure what they're gonna do about it. They're gonna avoid at all costs the border.
How did most of Ireland react to when the Queen died?
Well, I'm
social
only gonna
media.
talk about from personal side, like
Right.
people I know of. They just made fun of it, really. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's-
nobody was sad about it. It
Mm.
was just, yeah, no, nothing crazy, no.
Yeah, I heard a lot about people just more like celebrating her death than mourning it, like people in England did.
Yeah, I would say that even when I was in college, it would be
Mhm.
the same thing.
Okay.
No one,
Okay.
So quiet. Nobody have
Well,
anything
well,
to talk.
let's talk about what the title's about, right? The strike
Cool.
on the airbase there.
Yeah. So somehow so I just reported this because I was out today, so the report was a bit late today. So Ukraine launched a drone strike on the Engels airbase. Like again, this is like the second time I think.
Yep.
And Saratov is actually very far away. It's like 600 kilometers away. So it's almost like a half a Ukraine away kind of thing. And it hits. The Russian MOD reported that they shot down the drone, but then three soldiers died. So I'm not sure how do you shoot down a drone successfully and still three soldiers die. So and I believe that there might be more casualties because three died. I'm quite sure there will be others that are injured as well.
Mhm.
Hi William. Oh, this is a long time supporter, and finally I see his face.
Yeah. Singapore.
What's up,
Yeah.
man?
All right.
My girlfriend's in Malaysia.
You're in Malaysia, right?
My girlfriend is.
Your girlfriend. Where are you now?
Minnesota.
Oh.
The middle of nowhere.
Actually, Minneapolis is one of the biggest cities in the country. So,
Oh.
Fortune 500 companies, 3M, General Mills. No defense contractors like California or the East Coast, but mostly food. So,
It's not life isn't too crazy out there, which I've heard, right?
well, Minnesota's cold, so we don't get as many people who don't work and have homes, and otherwise you freeze to death.
That would be rough, man.
I heard that North America now having some like very terrible snowstorm.
Actually, it was a bomb cyclone, so we're just really cold.
Yeah, it was
Brought down all
really
that air.
weird. It
Wasn't too much
like-
snow, just really cold, unless you're out in Buffalo or something.
No, well, I read actually like 240 million Americans saw temperatures below, I think it was 20 Fahrenheit, which is -8, -9 Celsius, which even for some of the central parts of the U.S., that's insane.
It was -18 Fahrenheit here.
Oh no, even here in Virginia, we got down to like 1 or 2 degrees Fahrenheit. So
So you guys are colder than Russia now.
we were for like 2 days, we were colder than like Moscow.
Ukraine needs to get colder. So you can get rid of these Russian troops, freeze their asses off, and they'll be done.
No,
That's what
man,
they think.
If Ukraine gets colder, sure, the Russians might suffer, but millions and millions of Ukrainian civilians are going to freeze to death too.
Well,
Because I checked the temperature in Ukraine.
it's not too bad.
It's hardly freezing.
No, yeah, that's what's weird about it.
Yeah, I was imagining the World War II scenarios, the photos and videos that we saw, white snow and then tanks rolling across. That only happened in the Russian training, not in Ukraine.
How do you guys think the soldier? Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. Back to the issue we outlined about drone strikes. I would say there is something fishy here because even if Ukraine has this technology with this long-range drones, which neither the US nor Russia has,
and they're old too, right?
Why wouldn't they use it in the conflict zone?
Or earlier, right? Use it earlier.
Aren't these drones super old too?
Yes, it's the Soviet drones. It's those Soviet.
They're like
they use
rocket powered, right? Or jet powered.
Yeah, and I believe that it's like you need to crank some gears kind of thing to do the coordinates. Man. But it's effective. It's like super effective. Like even the NATO air defense did not catch it when they dropped into, I think, Czech Republic.
Which is weird.
Which is weird. They fly the wrong direction.
Yeah.
So
was it a do you guys know if it was a malfunction of its like GPS system, or was it did they launch it on purpose or something?
I don't think there's GPS system. It's all manual. It's like
old
Soviet pre-computer kind of.
Yeah, I guess I was just assuming they upgraded it a little bit.
And it's funny how effective it is.
Mm-hmm.
It still managed to hit Russia, and the Russia have no idea how to stop it. And that's the beautiful part of it.
Didn't the last time it got through? Didn't the last time they launched that strike, it went like between a Russian air defense, like they had their system set up and they found like a weakness in it. They sent it right in the middle. That's what I read. That's how they got through.
Well, if you fly 50 feet off the ground.
Well, yeah, that's like, that. I mean, of course, that absolutely adds.
Can't even pick up trees. I mean, these drones don't have to fly very fast. I mean, look at the North Koreans flew around the south for 7 hours.
Yeah, what was that about? Can we talk about
like 7 hours and all the way to Seoul?
Yeah, there's the big news today, which I saw on the pro-Russian sources, where the North Korean sent, I think, 5 drones across the DMZ, and then the South Korean seems to have zero ideas how to stop it. It's a bit like the Turkish drones that Goran 2 that is flying into Ukraine, and Ukraine have no idea how to stop them. They send the fighter jets.
Goran is Iranian.
Yeah, so they flew the fighters to intercept, and then they crashed. So the South Koreans actually crashed one of their K1 jets, trying to intercept the drone, which is like hilarious to me.
Well, how did that actually happen? I mean, it's kind of funny because you'd think this technologically advanced country could shoot down a couple drones, but it actually opens up a lot more. Is the Ukrainian, is the South Korean military ready for a conflict involving like modern day technology? Because they've been preparing for the North Korea's like mass artillery strikes and all this kind of stuff, right? But could South Korea hold off a drone strike like that?
The North Korean army is sick and they're in terrible shape. I mean, you remember that one guy who escaped? They found like he was one of their top units. He had like 10 worms in his gut from trying to eat potatoes out of the field. Remember that guy who made it across, ran and got shot like 6 times and survived? He was one of their elite soldiers, and his whole intestines were just full of parasites. And that country's in bad shape. The only reason they do this stuff is to stay in the news so they can get some concessions, some money, something. Because we're basically ignoring them right now. They hate that when we just get ignored.
So like Zelensky have to fight for attention with Kim Jong-un.
Exactly.
They're both like trying to outdo each other.
You gotta stay in the news. Which
is kind of morbid if you kind of think about that.
Yeah.
How do they keep it up? It's through violence and death.
I think Zelensky's fine now. We just passed the budget for what, $52 billion for next year. That's what he's going to get next year from the Americas, $52 billion plus how much from the NATO allies.
I love $52 billion, man. Can I have
Yeah.
$52 million?
But
It's
I
not
think
like they're
90
getting money. We're paying our own defense contractors to produce this stuff to give it to them. So we're basically paying for our own jobs to.
But
I
the
mean, this is gonna.
military part is only 1 billion. You know.
What's that?
Like, there's
Yeah.
the military part of the aid is only $1 billion. The other ones is all for infrastructure.
Yeah.
So whatever it means,
But all of
Uh,
that comes with a catch, though. It's not for Ukraine to just keep. It is they will
Yeah, it
have
all
to
has to be
put
paid
it
back.
It's a
back.
lend-lease
And-
program, just like we did for the British. They got to pay it back. Supposedly, the British never paid it back. So
Well, with Ukraine, it's even worse because before the war, their GDP was what 200 billion. So imagine after this war, let's say they need a bunch of things to go right. They need the war to end faster. They need the population to come back. They need a bunch of things to go in their way to even be able to pay part of it back. So
yeah, but
economically speaking, it's really, really, really hard for them to survive.
But you got to remember, Japan, Germany, they had nothing left. The whole countries were just devastated. There was nothing. Now they're two of the greatest economies in the world,
Well,
and we rebuilt them. Same with South Korea. I mean, there was nothing. It was just destroyed. So if they come back as a strong, if they get in the European Union and come back as a democracy, with the type of food products and they have and stuff, they'll thrive.
Well,
Do you think that they can come out? Oh, go ahead, Aki.
Yeah, well, it depends if they're able to really get back the Zaporozhye and Donbass, because that's where, well, Crimea too, but Crimea, I don't think they're getting back. That's where all of their natural resources and industries were. Without it, I think it would be very, very, very hard. So I'm in Vietnam right now, and it is the perfect example. They had the will, but what you also need is the resources. There are three things that you can utilize. It's commodity or commodities, natural resources, or services that you can provide. So if you don't have population, you can't provide services. If you don't have resources, you can't provide commodities. So not the economics of it really depends on a bunch of things going right, and one of the most important parts is are people from other that have been displaced will come back or not. It is a huge population that they're losing. It's not just people who are going to different countries. It's also, think about the 4 or 5 million that Russia can just take with the annexed regions.
They got to support them. They could barely support their own army right now, let alone 4 or 5 million refugees. So,
well, I don't think they would be refugees. They would be people in their own working, would they not?
the problem is the average Russian family makes about $10,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
That's, I mean, it's 56 in America, and most Western countries it's 36 grand. I mean,
the cost of living, right? Like,
they're trying to live on $10,000. We're like, well, they're only paying in rubles. It's kind of like Malaysia. You know, my girlfriend works for the government in Malaysia. She makes 2,000 RM ringgits a month. It's like $500. Well, it's 2,000 there. But you got to buy stuff that comes in unless you buy locally sourced products. You're in bad shape. So,
William, where does she live?
Kuala Lumpur, KL.
Because when you say average, the average turnover or gains of a Russian citizen, of Russian family, we have this very huge differences within Russia itself. Let's say Moscow, one of is as expensive as Zurich, and it's a high economical metropole as St. Petersburg is.
Yeah,
and
but
then
these
huge landscape where you have a complete different economical structure.
But
So
Putin's support isn't coming from these
yeah.
big cities. He gets his support from out in the rural areas where these people are in bad shape.
If you've ever been to Russia, the thing about Russia is that if you go outside Moscow and St. Petersburg, that's where the real Russia starts. The thing about that, the benefits of Russia is that everybody there, they still have the leftover communism mindset. It's not communism, but basically as long as they have food, water, shelter, and a job, they're happy with that.
Or pension.
It's not. It's not.
Pension. Pay him.
Yeah. It's
If he
not
stops
like,
paying those pensions, he's done.
yeah. It's
Wouldn't
not
that be
like
any
in
country?
North America where we need a bunch of fancy stuff here and there to, keep our standard of living. People
Yeah.
are just content with whatever they have. So
Quick question:
I don't.
A lot
what's the
of the
topic right
world.
now? What's the topic right now we're focusing on?
Anything you want.
How the Russian people and Russian military
Or
what was it,
Ukraine,
like,
how
cannot be
we
supported.
started off with whether Ukraine can survive the war,
Right.
sorry,
Now,
Okay.
do well after the war,
and now
and
we're
then after we talk
trying
about
to figure
the
out
cost
if
of
Russia can
living.
do the same thing.
So okay,
Yeah.
let's put everything together. What we know all that the Ukrainian economy is in the brink of collapse. So what would it mean for Europe? How much damage would it cause for the European Union to keep that up without Ukraine?
You mean keep it from collapsing?
Like it's about
Exactly.
12 billion a month right now, right? Isn't that like the number? I don't know
Yeah.
exactly, but it's a lot of money per month.
That is
You know,
how
they
long
sign-
can Europe sustain that without getting real serious own problems?
Well,
I
by
would
Europe,
argue
I'm
longer than
assuming
Russia.
you mean. Well, by Europe, I'm assuming you mean the European Union.
Yeah, it's not
It's
going to be
only-
Europe
it's only
who's
gonna be
spending
those-
most of that money.
It's only going to be those countries really that are going to pour into trying to resurrect Ukraine's economy. Because the countries who aren't part of the European Union, why are they going to care?
Yeah, well, at the moment, all the debts and problems Ukraine has with governmental services and so on are paid by now by the US and Europe, and moreover, Europe goes into an unknown economical crisis because of the energy. So the question is, how long will this sustainable for Europe before saying, well, let's drop Ukraine because it caused too much damage for us. And I think this is a thinking the political leadership in Russia sees very well. So the question here is really on that point.
Yeah, but if you're afraid of losing your own country to another country, you're going to spend whatever it takes to defend yourself. And I don't think anybody thinks that Putin only wants Ukraine. That's insane. If he would have rolled in there and finished them in 72 hours, he'd be done with Moldova, Georgia, probably going to Latvia and those other countries. And
I
He's
don't
not
think he's
gonna
dumb enough to
stop.
start
Wait,
World War
why-
III.
why would he-
He ain't dumb enough to start World War III. No,
I want to
because he knows that he has to fight all of NATO if he does that.
I'm not.
why?
saying-
Why would he have to fight NATO? We would probably just say, fine, take Latvia and them too. I mean, we don't.
No, because you know why? Because if it's that easy for Putin to go and take those three countries that are NATO countries, that it's that easy for China to say, well, if Putin can do it, why can't we just take Taiwan? Then
They
basically,
will.
then the U.S. would be a joke and NATO would dissolve. And the
The
US
only
can't
problem
do that.
is trying to get across the ocean. China's Navy is not that good. They put out a few ships, but I mean, now the
They have the
Japanese
largest
have
Navy in the world.
doubled.
They have the largest
What's
navy
that?
in the world. They have the
No, they
largest
do
navy
not.
in the world.
They
Yes,
they
do.
have
Are you
okay
they
actually
do not.
Yes, they
Jay,
do. Look it up.
They do.
they have no
The
they
United
have the
States has
largest
11
one.
aircraft carriers.
They
That's
have
great,
the
but I'm saying by
largest
tonnage and by vessels, they have the
but
largest.
Jay, like I kind of got to play devil's advocate. Just because you have the physically largest by tonnage navy doesn't mean you have the most powerful navy.
That's true.
Now
but that means they can
Japan's
absorb a lot
doubling
more
their
damage,
spending
though.
on Navy too. So
That means for every one ship that the U.S. would lose, it would cost them more than it would for every one ship that China would lose. Let's also not forget the fact that China actually has hypersonic missile technology, whereas the U.S. does not. And if they do, you can look it
a
up.
hypersonic missile's not going to be good against a moving carrier. It's good
hypersonic
against
missiles.
standard
They got a
targets
whole
that are
aircraft
set.
carrier.
What's that?
They have aircraft killers. They have aircraft carrier killers. They have hypersonic missiles that can take out a single aircraft carrier killer.
So William, are you making the argument that the Kinjal and Zircon missiles don't work?
They're not going to be good against them. I'm saying against moving targets like aircraft.
But that's
They're
the
not gonna
thing.
work.
The Zircon missile is specifically designed to target aircraft. Like that's the sole purpose they created it for.
To target an aircraft carrier.
Yes.
Good luck getting
it's
through.
an
it.
anti-ship
missile.
What's that?
It's an anti-ship missile.
I didn't understand.
It's an anti-ship missile.
Okay.
But you're saying good luck getting through an aircraft carrier. What do you mean? It's defense systems, like it's chain guns. You're saying good luck getting through that?
Well, you're surrounded by
does
screening
have a- it does
vessels
have a screening
and
team,
submarines that all take out missiles.
So from my understanding, China do not have a hypersonic missile that is meant to hit a carrier.
Yeah,
They
they've
have a
only got-
hypersonic nuclear ICBM. So
I,
that's
th- I think they do. It's called the DH-21. It's a ballistic missile with a hyperglide on it.
If you think Russia or China could sustain a ground offensive on Taiwan, it just wouldn't happen.
Okay, why would it not? Why would that not work?
You'd have to constantly be bringing in supplies constantly. And if the United States said fuck it and we're not gonna stop it, then yeah, they probably could, because the Taiwanese don't
We
have
don't
the
even
chance.
have the industrial base to continue feeding weapons into Ukraine. What makes you think we have
Who?
the industrial base to match? The U.S. doesn't. You
What are
should
you
watch.
talking about?
Okay, if we don't have the industrial base to keep feeding weapons into Ukraine, then we don't have
Guys,
the industrial base to be able to match China's industrial base. to
What
keep feeding
industrial?
weapons
What are
to
you
Taiwan.
talking about? General Dynamics is the largest defense corporation in the world.
They
What are
may
you
be,
talking
but
about?
you still have to have the industrial base to create these things. You can be the biggest per capita. You can be the biggest.
Do you know how many carriers we put out a month in World War II? One a month.
Yeah,
World
guess
War
what?
II.
That was,
Yeah,
Jay,
they can
that was
just ramp
80
it up.
years ago.
Hold
That
on.
was, excuse me, that was like
William.
70 years ago.
Those shipyards are still
70
there.
years ago.
They're there, but you need that. You cannot. There's no logical way to connect a World War II era aircraft carrier to a modern aircraft carrier. The difference in technology is
Night and day.
worlds apart. But there's one more thing. You said who did you say was the largest defense corporation?
He said General Dynamics.
General Dynamics. How many hard factories, like hard point factories to create materials, does General Dynamics have?
Well, you have to look at all their subsidiaries. Where do you think all our ammunition that we're sending over right now is made? It's made in New Jersey.
And Saudi Arabia. We buy it from Saudi Arabia in bulk.
New Jersey is putting out large amounts of ammunition now. The HIMARS plant in Arkansas is 24/7 now.
But
The
it's-
Javelin plant in Alabama is 24/7 now. If we needed to, we could easily.
It would take time, though. It would take years to ramp
I still don't
up capacity.
understand.
Wouldn't take
It would.
years.
It would take years to go back to you're saying go back to a wartime economy then, really, in a sense, because it's
Detroit could easily
capacity.
switch over everything.
Yeah, but it would take time.
You
It would
You have
take
to also have
guys,
I don't
people
know
willing
how
to do
much, but it would
that.
take time.
You also have to have
It
people
would
willing to
happen
do that
guys,
overnight, like.
because the U.S. has so much
they
freedom. You
already-
can't just make people do that by the will of the government. The government cannot forcibly tell people, okay, well, we're gonna convert into a wartime economy, and we're gonna have people do this. You have to
Guys.
incentivize them with more money than it
Hey,
takes.
America
to
would
go
do quite
there.
well.
Guys,
They always do well when
guys,
they're
all-
We
making.
make a lot of money off of it.
But
Our
you have to
people
pay a lot of money
make
to
a lot of
incentivize
money.
people to do that.
Yeah.
That's my point. Whereas other countries where they have less freedoms than we do here, they don't have to incentivize it with money as much because they don't have the freedoms knowing that the government is powerful enough to force people in those positions to do so.
Guys, we have the answer to what you're talking about. They already
Okay.
put it out in the paper. How many HIMARS are made? How many Patriot missiles are made a year? They're in the hundreds, and
It's
they
pretty
now
small, but it can
signed
be
contracts.
increased.
They
Well,
signed contracts to double the production, and that won't start till like 2024, 2025.
Yeah.
And even if they double the production, that won't even cover a couple missile launches from what Russia is doing today. And I have a question for you guys. When has Russia ever had a problem with supply of weapons? Other than the
Never.
news that says it, ever. Like, I can't think of any time.
In fact,
Never.
if you look at it, even if Russia was solely using Cold War era technology, right, for this war, even if that's all they were using, they probably outnumbered all of what NATO had. The USSR probably outnumbered all of the stockpiles that NATO had by at least 3 times.
But the
And
problem
there's probably
is
still warehouses
quality
that
shit,
haven't
though.
been tapped yet.
one Excalibur round is probably worth 150 of the rounds that they're using.
Quality.
Right, but
You're talking about
Okay,
sticking a
well,
GPS on a round and it hits the target.
You know what?
I
You know what
mean-
though?
Yeah,
The
man.
Nazis
They got
probably
so,
had the
and
same
what-
ideology with the Panzer versus the T-34, but the T-34 could be mass produced, and you could produce 5 T-34s to every 1 Panzer. And how did
That's
that
true.
work out? the Nazis were still beaten by the
Yes,
sheer
but the
volume
problem
of
is
the Russians produced.
the Germans were fighting in a two-front war and had the world against them. The Russians have the world against them now, so they're not on the side. What?
The world being, if you look at the last UN meeting, right, when they were trying to vote on a multipolar world, there were most countries voted on the side of Russia.
Do you know Russia's GPA is smaller than the state of California?
Well, there is
Russia's GPA is smaller than the state of California.
William, I'm sorry,
most
but I
countries
think
are smaller than
Can I
GPA.
answer that?
Most
Can I answer that
allies are
question?
smaller than that.
Can I answer
Sure,
that
go ahead.
question?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
If you look at the metric you're using is CPP, but if you look at PPP, which is purchase parity, Russia comes 5th in the world.
no.
How do you
guys,
think they're able to have a space program, to
No,
have a
Vasily.
nuclear powered submarine program,
Vasily,
to have
he's
all these
talking about
programs?
GPA. He's talking about GPA, the grade point average. California
GDP,
gets better
GDP.
grades. California gets better grades than Russia does.
I don't know.
Russians
about
are
that.
pretty smart
I think
too,
that's
man.
probably the other way around.
Yeah, for sure.
Again, this is a
I don't think
country
the
that
average GPA
produces
in California
space
is better than
rockets
Russia.
and
I can
everything
tell you
else,
that.
hypersonic missiles. This is not a joke of a country. I'm not sure what you're trying to get at a point. One smarter than the
Well,
other?
You know what's interesting is why did one of their SFB officers get busted coming through Estonia trying to smuggle in sniper rounds and some chips? If they're so set, why are they bringing one guy?
Do
That
you
kinda sounds
really
like a
believe
straw man
everything that the news tells you?
What's that?
Do
Well,
you
they
really
busted the
believe
people
everything
here
the
in
news
America too
reports?
that were supplying it.
Yeah, spies get caught. Well, I don't get what your point is there.
And
If they
those
were
drones the
smuggling chips?
Iranians are using,
If
they
they were
got
smuggling
American
chips?
chips in it. So I don't know how that works either. But
Probably because probably
Okay,
because from the Saudis. That's
again,
why.
Probably.
what is your point with the chips? Like, what Russia produces its own chips. They don't produce the smallest size of the chips, but what are they using those chips for then? The chips that they need, that you're trying to comment on, like for missiles and other things, they produce all those chips. You can go watch the laboratories that are making them today. They're on video. Just like here, I'll give you another example of how crazy. I heard you guys talking about it earlier, that the Goran 2 is an Iranian drone. If you go to Combat Approved, the Russian documentary channel, you'll see on 2019, they're showing that drone. They're using it.
No,
That's way before the war.
Vasily, I said that just because it's the easiest way to describe that drone to people who don't know specifically about it.
No, I know, but I'm just saying the news reports a lot of things. They're reporting that they're getting ammunition from North Korea. They're like, oh, none of this makes any sense. There's no evidence. Why do people bring it up?
Vasily, if you went back to February 24th, let me just ask you this.
Okay.
Seriously, let's say you were in charge of Russia. Would you invade again?
Okay.
If you could second guess, would you do it?
At that point, I would, and let me explain why I would.
Even if you knew what you knew now.
quick.
Let's say you could look into the future.
I know.
and you knew.
I've been following this since the beginning. Let me explain to you why I would. So 2014 rolls around. You have the World Cup happening. So then a protest starts for whatever reason. He's a corrupt politician, whatever. So at that point, there's protests, and they try to overthrow him and throw him out. So what does he do? He turns around and says, okay, we'll have an early election. I'll step down and we'll re-vote. But the radicals did not want that. So they did an insurrection, committed treason to overthrow that government because their ideology was not popular in the country at the time. So they overthrew them. Are those the good guys?
Are you telling me that you seriously
We'll start at the
think
very beginning. Before anything happens, I'm asking you, the people that committed the insurrection, that were committing treason, are those the good guys?
let me
Or
ask
the
you
guys
about
that,
a recent
that
election
held the
in
Constitution?
Belarus. Do you believe that election was 100% up and up?
That's not my problem, though. That's the Belarusian
Well,
problem.
if you have fake
You shouldn't get
elections and you
involved
have
with
the
it.
majority of the people vote for someone else, and all of a sudden this guy wins,
Can you
What do you
bet
expect?
your life on that? I just gave you a
we had
full
our own
system
attack,
of things
capital
that the
attack,
news
and it was
lied to you
only
about.
50-50.
I just gave you a full list of things the news lied to you about. Then you're turning around saying, but the news told me that this guy lost the election, which they're not even in the country. They don't even have news in that country. How do they know? because some lady said she's the president and we recognized her? It's the next
Democracy.
Juan Guaido. Are you joking?
If you have
Come
all
on,
these
man.
people,
This is not.
if you have
this
all
is
these
not our
people who
business.
don't believe the election, we
I
know
would
that
say
now.
we are losing
Oh, he
track
asked a
of
question
the
though.
topic.
Hold on. Vasilije
Right.
asked a question though. Answer Vasile's question. He still
What I'm
asked a question.
saying is, we had this happen here. Half of our country thought that our election was fake,
Yep.
was
you know what?
rigged.
Yeah.
If you've been paying
So
attention
what
over the past
happened?
couple
A bunch of
weeks,
freaking
that's not
people
necessarily a
attacked the
lie.
Capitol.
William, if you've been paying attention over the past couple of weeks, that's not necessarily a lie either.
Whether it's a lie or not is what I'm saying is, if you're in a democracy and the majority of the people think that you have rigged it or faked it, they're going to react. And what happened there is the majority of Ukrainians did not want that guy in power because they knew
That's
it was
not
fixed.
true. That's not true. That's not true, because why do you think these people started to separate? And obviously
Vasily.
not the whole country. It was pretty
Vasily,
split down the
you're
middle.
going back to 24th of February when Putin thought he would walk in and people would be throwing roses down on the feet of the Russians. Look
Who
at
told you
Kharkiv.
that? The media?
90-something,
Who told you that? The media?
90%
Again, who
of the
told you
people
that?
in
The media?
Kharkiv
Vasily,
speak Russian,
let him
correct?
finish.
90% of the people in Kharkiv speak Russian, correct?
Yes.
It's 20 miles from the Russian border, right? Or
Okay.
how many kilometers? They
What's your point?
absolutely fought tooth and nail to hold on to their city.
Who was fighting there?
The people in Kharkiv.
No,
Those
the
divisions-
people
Yeah, William,
their
that's right.
Those
That's
divisions
right.
are made up of
No, guys,
Russian-speaking
that's right, because
soldiers.
the grandmas threw the pickle jars out the windows and they
Correct.
saved the city.
Yes, the grandmas threw the potatoes. Last I checked, Azov was in that city. Tornado was born in that city. And then you have this army that was created from militias since 2014 that was running around the eastern parts of Ukraine, butchering, torturing on video. Did you see those videos? I could send them to you. They're all over the place. This didn't happen. This happened. Did they not massacre like 50 people in a building?
Well, who's
and torch
doing the
them on fire?
massacring now? Who's launching
What
missiles
massacre?
at civilian targets?
Today we have a war. Today we have a war. Both sides
Well,
die.
You
So
mean
my
it just
question to
announced
you
today
is,
that it's a war, by the way. Did you notice that?
There's a long
Putin's
history
speech.
of.
Okay.
Finally, the speech
William,
said
let me
we're at
ask you-
war.
Yeah, that's because
William,
What
let me
happened to the special
William,
military
answer this-
operation?
yeah, but understand before we
William,
didn't realize that
answer this-
there were military contractors from other countries who were in the country, who were in Ukraine, actually guiding and leading Ukrainian troops. Now we know it's for a fact. Now we
and
know
sending
we know
in
this for a
and
fact,
sending in
actually.
$100 billion of weapons. But the point I'm trying to make here
No, it's not
is
quite 100 billion yet. Probably will be by the end of the
On
year.
our end, it is. On the U.S. end, it is. Especially after the
It
omnibus
is,
bill
it is.
just got passed.
Well, it's a good test of our
So my
weapons.
question to you is,
That's right.
Failing
Let's
everybody
kill a
who
bunch of people
predicted
to
a-
see if
hey.
our guns work. Really?
everybody who predicted an early end to the war predicted it because they believed that Russia would come in doctrinally. They would come in with a big force and actually have a war.
Charger.
If you think bringing 190,000 troops into the country to conquer it is a sufficient force, and then they tell you they're calling it a special military operation, they give you what they're trying to achieve, you could say it's
Regime
not a
change.
war at that point. And
We know it
if
was
you
regime
listen to it, and they probably failed. There was some intelligence. I'm not saying that they're perfect. Of course, they did a lot of wrong things too,
Oh,
and a lot of things
It was-
changed back and forth throughout
Can I
this
just
time.
say something quickly? Because William brought up a comment there just about like, if you were Russia and you saw the future and you came back, would you still go to war? I would answer yes, but with 1 million men, or a much larger force at least.
Well,
Right?
Russia already had 900K they could have drawn upon. But they would have risked taking away occupying troops throughout the borders of their country.
Yeah,
They-
I
So
do
what
believe
were they
would've.
doing then?
They had understood the rate at which sort of NATO had integrated with Ukraine, and also the rate at which other countries would have gone to aid Ukraine. From
The
their
only difference,
perspective.
I think the only difference would have been that they would have done a partial mobilization at the start of,
Yeah.
the conflict versus, what, 8 months in?
Yeah, and there would be no lightweight, just like running down roads. It would have been more of a slow advance like we're seeing in Bakhmut, where they basically just flatten
And
areas and move
and that
on.
60 and that 40-mile convoy would still be outside of Kiev right now. Would still to this day be outside of Kiev. They
No,
wouldn't
it wouldn't, because that was
It would
just
be
a
a convoy.
fake feint.
I'm saying they
No
would not
one's
have.
saying that,
They
man.
would
No
not
one's
have
saying that,
withdrawn.
William. Don't
They would
worry.
not have withdrawn out of that city though. Kiev to this day would still be under siege.
I
Yeah,
think they would also.
May I ask
attack
one or
Norway.
two questions to William?
Sure.
Okay, the first one is about Taiwan and the Ukraine. You have the contrary problem there. First, Taiwan wants to be is a secession from China, and you support that, as I understood.
It's not a secession. What are you talking about?
From people who want to be free from its nation. And you support that.
Fabio, it's not a secession.
On the other hand, you have people on the. May I ask a question first?
Sure.
And on the other hand, you have the same issue in the Donbass. There, you switching the sides. You say no, a nation has to be consistent. How do a U.S. citizen approach this contradictory?
First off, Taiwan isn't a succession because there were two forms of government in China when World War II was occurring, and one of them got defeated and fled there. So they kind of started their own thing.
Okay,
But secondly,
let's point it out.
I do feel that if there was ability to have a true referendum in the Donbass and Luhansk without any troops there, Russia should have never came in and started that. They could have asked for their own succession or whatever, and had a. I think that if they would have allowed the UN to come in and run a true election there, that they could have had some independence.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
But taking into Crimea, they started with Crimea when they went in there and they captured that, and that just threw everything off. They're like, okay, now Russian troops are trying to.
Wait.
Well,
No. So,
do you think this last election in Zaporizhia and Kherson and that was true? I mean, come on, give me a break. Come on, straight up. Come on. First half,
I will say that at the very least, the Donetsk and Luhansk ones, if they were overnight,
that might have been true because most people who lived in Donetsk and Luhansk who supported Ukraine had to get the hell out of there, and they fled in 2014. Their houses got taken over, whatever. A lot of people fled from there.
They also dealt with 8 years of civil war in that region. Keep that in mind.
That's true, but a lot of Ukrainians fled from those areas in 2014. They have not been back.
You don't think Odessa would? You don't think Odessa was given an opportunity?
Well, percentage.
You don't think Odessa would, William?
What's that?
If Odessa was given the opportunity to receive,
well, they might. They might, but what I'm saying is you got to have an election without military there. You can't have military there and then do an election.
Okay, so what happens when you have the election with no military?
Let's do this. Let's pull all the Russian troops out.
Awesome.
Have a third party come in. Have a third party come in and do the election.
Can I answer this?
Russia, and then Ukraine will immediately begin bombarding and massacring the civilians because there's no military there to protect.
Not true. Look at Kosovo and Serbia. You have to bring in a force. We can let freaking China and India come in there and be in between. Let China and India come in with troops and be in between the two warring parties, have all other troops leave the area, and then do a true let people return.
Listen, aside from the fact that would never happen, okay?
Well, he's bringing up hypothetical.
It's okay, yes, but like let's not be pie in the sky about it though. Like if you're talking about troops from China and India coming in, you run the risk that if one dumbass Azov decides to say, "Well, I'm just going to launch this mortar at Chinese troops because why not?" and then they retaliate, okay, and then you have two other superpowers in a region that is already hot that now has troops that have been killed. You now risk having two other major powers drawn into a conflict, and you are throwing jet fuel onto the fire that could be World War III in a scenario like that. That would never happen. There's two.
But he brought up elections, and there's no way to do an election in the current situation.
A timeline is important, guys. Let me ask a simple question.
That's not reasonable. That's not reasonable.
Let's go through the timeline here. 2014 happened. So they overthrew the government. Half the country was pretty pissed off, and they started to do a separatist movement, but they're not really separatists because they're standing behind the legitimate government. So what ends up happening at this point, you have a bunch of oligarchs that funded militias that were sent to the east of Ukraine and terrorized it till they burnt those people in the building. Then they declared their independence. And what did Putin say? No, you guys are Ukrainian. Stay with Ukraine. Then they tried to negotiate a peace process. This was called Minsk. Then the first Minsk didn't last more than a couple hours. Then they did the second one. We know they lied about this because Petro Poroshenko, and now we have what's her name from Germany, admitting that they lied about this. So the best person to Ukraine for the last 8 years has been Putin, who's bent over backwards all the way to the end. He even in December of 2021 tried to warn and say, listen, I need a new security framework. This is going to end up in a war. He even sent out letters. He tried to negotiate. He put things on the table. What did we do in the West? We backstabbed them on every single agreement, whether the weapons, START treaty, whatever it is. Look at Iran. Every agreement we ever made, we backstabbed these people. So who are you going to make an agreement? You just spent 8-9 years bending over backwards when you could have moved into the country and saved these people earlier. Keep in mind, 14,000 civilians died in this time. These were Russian ethnic people. So my point to you is, are you saying what more could it be done? We cannot rely on a deal with the West at this point because they don't keep deals. It's a unipolar world that they're living in. Are you going to disagree with what I just said, William?
All I know is the report, the UN observers said that the separatists were the ones who broke the Minsk agreements constantly, killing Ukrainian soldiers. They did not fire back because they did not want to start the war.
Everybody in this room follows this war. Does anybody agree with what William just said? Is that built in reality that the Russians broke the Minsk agreement?
Here's all
I didn't say the Russians. I said the separatists were the ones who broke the Minsk agreements, continuously shelling Ukrainian lines.
Yeah, and they shelled themselves too, right?
Both sides weren't helping
the Ukrainian government never ratified it, though.
Without a shadow of a doubt, right? Beyond all doubt, if it can be proven, then I will believe it.
Who shot down these poor Malaysian people? Who shot them down?
Yeah, who did? Who did? You're right. Who's part of the investigation?
Not irrelevant. They were using Russian anti-aircraft guns and shot down and killed Malaysian citizens.
Non sequitur. You are detracting from the point. Has nothing to do with the Minsk agreement.
I agree with that.
And he's wrong on that point too. He's wrong on that too. It's a Western-run investigation. What are you talking about?
Whatever.
Wait, you think they're going to vote for Russia? When have they? I just told you they can't keep an agreement. What the heck are you talking about?
William,
they had cell phone conversations with the guy who ordered it.
Arrested people in the OSCE for giving information to the Ukrainian army where to bomb. You saw that, right?
Vasilije, wait.
William, as for
with the
your
information that you have,
about
with the information that you have, who blew up Nord Stream? Who blew up the Nord Stream pipeline?
I don't give a shit who blew it up.
Well,
Nothing's dead in the water.
Obviously, we can't pin it on one country.
I don't care.
Guys, no.
What do I care about Nord Stream? We're not going to be using Russian gas ever again.
You should care about it
is important. It's just another deal that's got that.
Most the American doesn't care.
You know what? Germany now has an LNG plant, and we're shipping them a ton of LNG and making a bunch of money.
America.
Yeah, you're the best friend in the world. Let's charge the country 5 times more for the gas. You guys are the best friend
to Europe now.
I can sense the imperialism.
It costs a little more, but we're making a ton of money off of it.
And sure, we don't care about Europe.
Okay, listen. The only thing I'm going to agree with William on is the fact that, yes, I'm Team America too, because I live here, and this is my country, it's where I'm born, it's where my family's from. I can agree with that. However, I'm not going to say that, well, to hell with our allies, and they can just deal with the shit end of the stick, while we are the ones who are raking in profits. I don't feel that kind of way about it, because this could have been done a whole lot less dirtier than how it's being
We're
done
the ones spending the most money to support Ukraine.
Okay, and I don't disagree with you.
Not really. You're making a lot too, and you're going to make a lot more.
We were the ones
we are making
spending the most money before the conflict started, because there were at least 20 countries in NATO that wouldn't even give up 2% of their GDP to pay their fair share for their military spending. So
Well, that's changed now.
That's like, okay, yeah, but it's changed. But look what it took to change, though. Look what it took.
Now we got Finland and Sweden joining us. I mean, there's really, literally.
So you
and they're also
it was the
getting
worst
half a million
decision Putin
soldiers
ever
on their
made.
border
They
now.
haven't officially joined yet. They have not actually joined yet.
And ballistic
you keep
missiles.
making statements of
Turkey is still
fact.
blocking, okay? Turkey is more of a friend to Russia than they are to NATO. Don't even try to fool yourself with that, because they're still blocking the ratification of Finland and Sweden being part of NATO.
That's not because of Russia, even though it might be, but they're saying it's because Sweden is holding all these terrorists and
Even still, though,
letting
even
them
still,
in there.
they're even if they're doing that by proxy, they're still more of a friend to Russia than they are to NATO, because they're still doing more.
They do a lot of business with Russia. I mean, there's a lot of tourists there.
Exactly.
Here's
and,
my
and how are
only
they,
issue.
And how is that beneficial to the Turkish people?
They didn't allow the Russian Navy to come into the Black Sea, though.
They didn't.
Hey,
allow
William,
anybody
can I
to
ask
go
you?
to the
Can I
Black
ask you
They
a
blocked
serious question? I live in
What's
North
that?
America too, so let me ask you a question, William. Are you happy that we just destroyed Europe? That their businesses are moving towards us? That they're paying 5 times more for gas and possibly next year won't be able to fulfill their orders? Are you happy that we did all
First
this?
off,
Are you happy?
Are
you happy that we're putting fuel on the fire in Ukraine? Are you happy with that?
First off, this is a European situation, and we're helping them. We could be doing like the majority of people in my Republican Party want to do, and is ignore.
I'm gonna quote Henry Kissinger for you guys. Being an ally, being an enemy of the states is dangerous, but being an ally is fatal. Henry Kissinger.
Well, Vasilije,
I think he's
I'm
the
glad
best.
you're here. First off, because if you were in Russia, you probably couldn't even be on the stream. But
You should
I'm
say
glad you're
that.
here.
You should
There's a
say
lot
that.
of
You should
Russian
say that to the two
Americans.
guys that came on last
There's a
time.
lot
I
of
suggest
Russian
you stop
Americans
watching
who
TV. I suggest you stop watching the TV and actually see what's going on
I don't
inside
watch
that country.
TV. I
Because
watch
comments like
streams
that.
like this on YouTube.
Wait. I come from Canada, okay? I come from Canada. Let's take a look at what my government did to me this year. They froze bank accounts. They arrested trucker protesters. They locked people up in their houses. They closed down their businesses. Russia didn't do all that. Who's more authoritarian? Are you going to try and tell me that my government is the shining star in the sea?
Here's the thing. I don't care if you want to protest as a trucker, but don't block the damn highway. Come on, man. People got to go to work. They blocked the bridge.
Where were these complaints over the summer?
They were in the center of the city. They were in the center of the city.
No, they didn't. They blocked the bridge that went across the international
They
border.
were in front of Parliament.
Idiots.
In the Summer of Love?
I'm from Ottawa.
What's that?
The protests,
you have that
I'm
same
from
energy
Ottawa,
during the
and
Summer of
the
Love?
protests were happening
I have no
outside
idea
my
what the
house.
Summer of Love is. You're talking about the
2020,
60s.
when there were all the riots.
Hey, William, would you say you're of
talking about the
the
riots
left
in
side of
Minneapolis?
politics?
No, there were riots across the
William,
US.
would you say you're
You have
of
that
the
same
left side of
energy
politics?
They were all in ghettos. I don't give a crap if they burn some
Oh,
pawn
so you
shop
don't
down
care.
on
Okay,
Lake
so
Street.
you care more about riots that are in another country than there are in your country. Exactly.
I don't give a crap. I don't give a crap if they burn down Lake Street
You can't even
in Minneapolis.
because you care more about the
Very
rights of another
negative.
country that don't even involve you than your own country that
Guys,
do.
he cares what the TV tells him to care about. It's obvious. Look at all the positions that he's taking. I'm asking him about. They're all just leftist causes.
Are you trying to say
that
that you
people cheer
justify
on.
the riot at the Capitol because of the riots by BLM in the summer?
That's not the
It
point.
was a riot. It was a riot, but hey, it was a riot, but it wasn't an insurrection, was it?
Yes,
it was a riot.
It was an attack on our capital.
Okay, then why don't you?
I voted for Trump twice, and I've never been so ashamed in my life.
Then why don't you?
The guy's a Putin bootleg and traitor.
I think they're all parasites. I think they're all parasites. That's not my point. My point is. So wait. That's the perfect thing. So you're saying that January 6th was an insurrection where no weapons and nobody attacked anybody except that girl that got shot by the cops?
What are you talking about? They attacked the police.
But you're telling me Ukraine, where they were shooting people, beating up, rioting, and taking over the government violently with weapons, that was okay. Excellent. Good answer, bud. You're a genius.
If they would have won on January 6th, I guess we'd be talking something different then.
And you could directly draw that parallel too. You could directly draw that parallel because the reason why the Maidan Revolution occurred was because of an election. It was exactly because. And
it wasn't because of an election. They what's it called? Petro Poroshenko was doing a deal with the European Union, trying to get a good trade deal that was going to happen. What ended up happening was it would have disconnected them from Russia. They would have to give up their cheap oil from Russia and all their loans that they were getting. So then Russia countered with an agreement. The agreement was better than the European Union. So what ended up happening was obviously the president was doing the best for his people and took the agreement with Russia. Now you have the people in the West who wanted to be more with the West of Ukraine. They start rioting and overthrow the government. And you're telling me that it's bad in America, good in Ukraine. This is not good.
If by you mean him, then I agree.
Yeah, I'm talking to William, obviously.
Yeah.
I just think William's stance is. I agree with him on some parts, but he's overwhelmingly focusing on how America benefits. And like, take for example with Armenia, right? So Russia's been so caught up in Ukraine that now Armenia is destabilized, and there's, the Azerbaijanis have attacked. Russians can't do much because they're so taken on Ukraine. Generally, there's destabilizing factors occurring.
I got a question for you. Why does
Let me answer. It's not exactly what's going on in Armenia. Wait, William, one second. In Armenia,
William,
I don't get that whole thing at all. Why does Azerbaijan support Ukraine so much? I mean, all their YouTube channels are all about.
Can I answer that? It's for both of you guys. It's for both of you guys.
Let him answer.
So what's going on there is you have Pashinyan, who got into power for Armenia. He was one of the Soros-funded guys. He brought in all the NGOs, and he was cutting deals with Europe and the West while balancing with Putin. Putin obviously didn't like this, and then they provoked a war with Azerbaijan. Then they lost land, and they came crying to Putin. And obviously, what do you think Putin's going to do with this whole scenario that's going on? He's playing defense because he still has good ties with Azerbaijan too. He sells them weapons as well. This is not like black and white. There's things going on that are happening. You can't it's not just you're part of the CSTO, you inherited this country, you're ruling it, and I'm going to bend over backwards for any way you take me. That's not the way politics works, man. And the whole point, to go back to what William was saying, is that this is the whole problem, the way he's thinking, because he's thinking America wins. That's not the way deals are made. When you're going to the negotiating table, you should be looking at, how do I win? How do you win? And when you have that mindset that the West is doing, this is how you fail at all these trade deals and all these agreements and everything else. Because once they don't suit you, you just pull out. They're not looking to be a mutual partner.
Most Americans would not stand by and watch you slaughter Ukrainians.
Would most Americans stand by and watch Ukrainians slaughter people in Donbass?
Which are Ukrainians? Which are Ukrainians again?
That's the issue. That's the issue. It doesn't really matter if you believe if you did. The evidence exists, right? The evidence is present. There's legal precedent and existing evidence that all that happened. And
they were killing each other.
I respect your opinion to have that, right? That's what makes America awesome. We can all have these different opinions, but the evidence exists. If you haven't seen it, that's fine, right? It does not make you a bad person. But if it exists and it proves a specific reality, then your belief does not
really.
I can tell you, there's not nearly as many people who were slaughtered before 24th of February as there is now. I can tell you that.
There should be zero.
The entire city of Mariupol is destroyed. It's gone.
Okay, so let me ask you.
It's rebuilt now, but it's actively being rebuilt. Have you seen the videos?
Okay.
Let me ask you.
Those people died.
William, let me ask you this question: If we flip the script and let's say it was Mexico, and we overthrew the Mexican government, and now we installed our own puppet, like Russia installed their own puppet government over there, how long do you think it would be before America invaded Mexico? Do you think
Well,
it would have
we
been
already
8
invaded
years
them
and
once. How do you think we
14,000
got
Americans?
California, New Mexico, and Arizona?
No, I'm asking a legit
Damn
question.
straight,
Do you think
Those are
America
pretty
would
war.
have
I don't
invaded
see
in 8 years and
condemning that. I
14,000
don't
civilians?
see you condemning that.
I do not condemn that at all. No.
Exactly. So okay. So imperialism is good when it
The
works
fact
for
that
you.
Texas and everything
It's not
else is with
okay
us,
when
are
it
you
works for
kidding? Am I
someone else.
condemning that? No.
But
Good
see,
old
but
William,
you're
man.
okay with it because it works for you. You're not condemning
I
it
like
when
this
it's done
guy.
with someone else. That's the point.
I hope
The
you
point
go
I'm
back
I
making
and
don't
watch
have
is
a
this
problem
video.
with people looking out for
William's
their
all for it.
self-interests. I don't have a problem with Putin doing it. I asked him if it was the 24th of February and he knew what he knew now, would he have invaded again? And he
Yes.
said yes.
Why? You
I mean,
think
that's
he's,
the
you think
dumbest
he's
thing I've ever
treason?
heard.
And it would have made sense
Wait.
to do so.
Hold
And
on.
it
No,
would've
no,
made
no.
sense
Oh,
to
no.
do so.
Wait. William, why would that make no sense if you knew what you knew now to go again? Is it
Because
of
this is the worst thing that this is probably one of the dumb, besides Hitler attacking the Soviet Union and the
Can I
West
answer
at the
this for
same
us, guys?
time. This is the dumbest move any leader of any major country has ever made in their life. This
Okay,
is stupid.
Okay,
let me answer your question. Let me answer
He
your
just
question.
cost
Vasily,
his
no.
country 40% of all their energy revenues are going to be gone by this time next year. If you think shipping fuel to India and China is going to make up for that, then you're crazy.
So, you mean the two biggest populated countries on Earth?
Wait, with that
They have
information,
to ship it there. They don't even have pipelines there.
Are they building a pipeline? Are they building a Siberian
Well, they better
pipeline
build it
over there now?
faster.
Hey, Vasily,
They better build it faster.
try not to
They are. They said that the Crimean Bridge would take a decade. They built it in what, 2 years?
But you're telling me you would rather have the Indian
Dude.
market than Europe and the United
Vasily, don't do this.
Yes,
it's very,
you would.
very, very loud.
If they're going to be your adversaries.
Sorry. Yeah. Go ahead. I forgot what I was going to say. We went into
maybe you could ship fuel to Singapore. They need some.
Alan,
That's
go
what
ahead.
they
Alan, you're making a point. Alan, you're making a point.
If it was February 24th, and let's say, again, if this is the worst political decision that could have been made in the present time, what should have happened? What should they have allowed Ukraine to launch an offensive into the Donbass?
They weren't. The lines were static. The lines were static. They'd been in the same trenches for 6 years.
That's not the point. They were building up forces. This is open information. They said we're going to begin this offensive.
Nobody would have supported Ukraine attacking the Donbass at that time.
Okay. That's
Nobody.
Okay. So what should in that situation right now? We've heard Vasily's answer. What would you have done if it was February 24th?
It's just like North and South Korea. You stabilize the lines, and that's the way it is. I mean, that they could have lived like that for forever.
So keep letting the civilians die.
No.
Disagree with that.
That's what you're talking about. Is partition.
You're telling me a week before the attack, civilians were being massacred in the Donbass.
There was
14,000.
They were being killed and shelled. Yeah. Both sides.
You guys can keep up this all you want. Then why did he try to take over the entire country then?
He didn't.
He didn't.
He said 20,000 troops to Kyiv.
Yeah, but that isn't conquering a whole country. That's 200,000 men.
He tells you in the
Ukraine's
address.
huge.
Leading up
Well,
to
you take over, you take out the leadership, and you try to do it like that.
The point was to
I remember what.
Demilitarize and
I remember.
Ukraine. He tells you that in the address. And let's not forget,
Don't believe anything that Putin tells you. He doesn't even allow free press in his country. He throws people in jail for holding a blank white piece of paper.
A far-right political party that has sway and power over the Ukrainian government. That you cannot deny. They are a far-right neo-fascist.
You think Zelensky was the choice of the far-right group?
Zelensky's not.
They literally told him to shut up.
Well, he's in power now. He's one of the most popular politicians in the world.
He is as much in power as Biden is in power.
CNN told him.
What are you talking about?
To answer William's question,
I didn't vote for him, but he's the president.
Puppets, yeah, great. Puppet president here, puppet president over there. That's why they work so well together.
So is Trump a puppet?
To answer William's question of why Russia is actually stronger today and will be stronger, hey, William.
Yeah.
William,
because you don't need to try and destroy a puppet.
This is correct. But William, to answer your question, when you say this was the worst thing that Russia could have done, I'll totally disagree with you because let's look at what's going to happen by the end of this war. So now he just made his army bigger by 50%. They're going to be trained with however many years of war they're about to go through. They're pumping, doubling and tripling the spending budget, bringing all kinds of new weapons and armor and tanks and missiles and everything else. And they're designing new equipment faster than ever. And all this is going on. Do you think they're going to be stronger with all that at the end of this? Or do you think they're going to be weaker?
Let's do a different question here. Let's change up the subject.
Well, no, you asked me that question. I'm answering it.
No, I didn't. I already told you I didn't. So they're spending $900 million a day. They can't sustain that. I'm sorry.
How long do you think Russia can go for? Like I'm guessing they need to do a big blow, or it's gonna get messy, right? Like, they can't.
They have a lot of natural resources. I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
William,
did
Russia run a surplus this year?
Let me ask you this, because I've already said this hypothesis. A lot of you guys laughed.
No, you said they can't continue this.
A lot of you laughed. I remember that. But here's the thing: Putin will be dead. D-E-A-D, dead. Before springtime, killed by his own people.
You think so?
Why do you say that?
But here's the question I have.
If you're walking down the street and you say something bad about the government, they're going to grab you. And now the government's going to be overthrown. Buddy, like seriously,
I didn't say the government would be overthrown.
You can watch people doing interviews on the street in Russia. You can watch them do it. People ask questions. You can go there. You can see what's happening. Like, this is not some like North Korea where you can't go in.
Fine, go to Moscow and hold a white sign.
It's not fine. You keep bringing up these things that CNN's telling you. Like, are you not embarrassed to say these things?
But it's a
joke.
YouTube channel, watch a video of an old lady holding a sign.
So my point is, you're using talking points. These are talking points.
Vasilije, just answer me this. So after, let's say he does die. Let's say just hypothetically.
What the heck are you talking about? They've been saying that he's going to die.
Let him finish.
Hypothetically, let's say he does die. Who takes over? Now, here's the biggest question. Do the hardliners who are willing to go even farther?
Yeah, that's what I'm scared of, William. That's what I'm scared of myself. It's because
he's going to have some Novacek here before. If he loses one more major city.
Okay, William, answer this. Hey, answer this question for me. Do you really believe these Novichok things, where this Novichok came and it never killed anybody, but everybody was in contact with
this thing? Try to assassinate people all the time.
Wait. Do you actually believe that story?
Okay, so he has cancer. Someone said he has cancer. Okay, well, whether he has cancer or not. I'm saying who's going to take over
in England? Do you seriously believe that story? I'm being honest with you. Do you believe it?
Yes.
Do you really know what Novichok is?
I don't care. I'm saying if the question is not some guy in England. I'm saying
not know what you're talking about.
I'm saying he will be dead. I'm saying he will be dead by springtime.
I mean, we'll hold you.
Okay. So then
you did just like you held me to the Kherson. That the Russians lose Kherson was like, oh, you're kidding, that's crazy. Or Lyman, or Izium.
The Russians haven't lost Kherson though. They haven't lost
DPA, did people make fun of us saying that Kherson City would be taken?
They haven't lost Kherson though. They still have the southern bank of it though.
Yeah, it's just
you just have the southern end of it.
Well, here's what's going to happen. As soon as the ground freezes, Melitopol will be liberated, and they'll go straight to the Azov Sea, and everyone in Kherson's going to have to retreat to Crimea. That's why they're building. Listen, that's why they're building huge fortifications at the entrance to Crimea. Have you seen these fortifications they're building?
What are they going to arm? 15-year-olds? What is this, the Lost Boys? They're going to arm the Lost Boys and say, "Go."
What are you talking about? Ukrainians have close to 1 million men in arms now.
Yeah, and most of the fighting age troops are either dead or severely wounded.
No, they're not.
Yes, they
See,
are.
you're the other way. Dude.
No, because Merkel slipped up. No, because Angela Merkel
How many
slipped
troops
up.
does Russia
Angela
have
Merkel
training in
slipped up and
reserve?
admitted in a UN conference that over 100,000 were dead, and she slipped up, and then they had to backtrack.
Then why isn't the war over, Rillo?
The war's not over because
if 100,000 Ukrainian troops were dead, the war would be over.
Every single
I don't agree with that.
Here's what DPA's favorite line is.
That's exactly what they're going to do. That's exactly.
We don't know the truth because we'll find out when it's either taken or not taken.
Okay,
That's the favorite
William,
thing. You can't tell each side. The question is,
William,
4 weeks ago,
William, can you explain to me
Bakhmut was
how
supposed to be
Ukraine is
encircled
causing
and
more casualties to
captured.
Russia?
What's
Can you
that?
explain to me how Ukraine is able to cause more casualties to Russia?
Vasily, why
Can
are you
explain
in
to
North
me
America?
how that
Why don't you
happens?
go back to Russia? Why are you even here?
Bro, don't play that game. Bro,
I'm
stop.
for
Don't
the
play that.
facts.
Don't
I'm
play
for the
that.
facts, buddy.
No, you're not.
So when you're
Don't play that game.
when you talk like that, I'm asking you, can you please explain yourself? How does Ukraine accomplish causing more casualties to Russia? I can tell you how Russia does it. They have 7 to 10 times more artillery and weapons and guns.
How many men do you think the Russians lost trying to take Kyiv?
30,000.
A lot less than
No,
Ukraine.
not that many. Not that many, but how many did they take?
Multiples.
Oh my
And the
God,
point
you got
I'm
the
trying to make,
pro-Ukrainian
I'm trying to
say
make
not so many.
Probably a couple thousand, if that.
hey, to
Come
me,
on, there
to
was a
me, you're
guy
living
sitting in the woods
in-
with a javelin. How hard was it to destroy tanks from 2 miles away?
Did you see that TikTok video? That's the whole war.
Oh yeah,
Buddy, like I'm asking you
the
a
Chechen
serious question.
TikTok
though.
warriors. Huh?
How do they accomplish what you're trying to sell me on? Just tell me how they're going to accomplish this.
The
How did they
Russian
accomplish
command
it?
itself has said that the Ukrainians are massing a large
No,
army
you said
north.
they're
Hold
killing
on a
more
second. You
Russians.
asked me. Hold on a second.
Vasily, let him finish, man.
The Russian headquarters has said that the Ukrainians are massing a large army north of Zaporizhia area. In fact, today there's video coming from someone who was driving along of Russians pouring tanks and other things into Melitopol area to counter this. The question is, will they be able to?
And you believe
But
that
that
The
doesn't
Ukrainians are not
tell me-
using their mobile force in Bakhmut. They're using infantry to hold trenches and artillery. All their tanks and everything are sitting over in Zaporizhia area waiting for the ground to freeze. Why do you think that there's huge trench lines being built to the west of Mariupol and at Crimea? They're building massive trench works because they know that the center area is going to fall. I'm sorry, you can call it a strategic withdrawal if you want. Maybe they'll strategically withdraw. You can call it that if you want.
So,
But they will not
so
be
you
able,
put
and they've
up a
also
good
been
defense 'cause
negotiating.
they're gonna
Hold on
be
a second. They've
destroyed.
also been
That's why you
negotiating to
put-
turn over the Zaporizhian power plant.
They're
They're trying to get something out of that because they know they're going to lose it. So they're like, well, okay, if you guys allow gas to go through Ukraine over here, we'll give up the Zaporizhia power plant. Have they not been negotiating that?
Do you believe
Hey,
that
they're not
the
giving
Russian
up the
losses have
power
been greater than
plants
Ukrainian
to
losses
people
over
that
the
they
course of the
call
war?
Nazis. They're not giving up
They're
the
giving
power
up to the
plants to people
IEAE.
that
Okay,
they
they'll give it up to
believe
the
will
International
blow things up.
Atomic
All right.
Agency.
Do you
They're
believe
not
that
giving up the
Russian losses
plant.
have been higher than Ukrainian losses?
Yes.
By how much would you say? If you had to guess. Knowing that
probably-
Angela Merkel slipped up.
Absolutely fucking
Knowing that
ridiculous.
Angela Merkel slipped up.
Actually, I don't know how many. Well, let's say Ukraine lost 200,000 men and the Russians lost 100,000. Let's just say that.
That hurts Ukraine way more.
The
obviously.
yeah, but Ukraine's fighting for their life. How do you think we lost
What's Russia
Vietnam? We
doing?
weren't willing to. You know how many people we killed in Vietnam?
About 1.5 million.
We killed a shitload and we
About 1.5
lost. You know
million.
why? Because they were
1.5 million.
fighting for their lives and their territory, and we weren't willing to lose 50,000 men.
It was about 1.5 million. Vaughn wants to speak. I'm gonna mute myself. Go ahead, Vaughn.
You're not going to win just by win. You know. Go ahead, Vaughn.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, you can say that the United States lost the Vietnam War, but if you look at it on the battlefield, the United States won that war. It was lost politically because we
That's true.
had a
I agree.
Democratic Congress that didn't follow through with the support we were supposed to give the
You
South.
could have just
Vietnamese.
invaded and took over the Hanoi if you wanted.
Yeah,
I
my
guess.
dad was in Vietnam in '69 and '70, and he said that they should have invaded North Vietnam and it would have been over in 6 months. But that was back then, you know, and now he's not really, you know, I think he realizes that there was a lot of bullshit going on to get Vietnam started. So, you know.
Well, if we knew now what we knew then, kind of like I said about that, we would have never went to Vietnam. I can tell you that. So.
Okay, so there's going to be an offensive generally from the Zaporozhye area down south towards Crimea, right?
Not towards Crimea. No.
No? Towards Mariupol?
Mariupol and then straight down to the Azovsky like birdie
Okay.
ends. Cut it in
Okay.
half. And
So
then there will be no reason to hold that Kherson. They'll have to pull out of that and just pull back.
Right, reasonably, because they'd be cut in half. So how would this offensive proceed with a undermanned artillery force and no air cover.
What? Are you saying the Russians have air superiority in
They'll
Ukraine?
use crickets.
On
That's what they'll use.
hold on. During an offensive, you have to move your forces, right? Which means you have to expose them. Period. To maneuver, you have to expose yourself, which means you would be easy pickings for this is a fact, the greater numerical forces of the Russian artillery. That's not debated. Russia has more artillery than Ukraine does. And while maneuvering, you'd be easy pickings for the Air Force. How would this offensive proceed if Ukraine does not have a way to protect themselves from mass artillery fire and air cover?
Don't forget the rockets.
I'm counting that as artillery.
Okay.
So,
and no more leaves on the trees either.
Hi, John.
Yeah, the way they did it, the way I've heard they've done it in Izium and Lyman is they moved extremely fast. Here's the thing about artillery. If you fire it and they're moving, you have to move it up. You have to roll it up or whatever you got to do. If you get into the trenches of your enemy prior to the artillery coming into effect, then it's useless. You're already behind that and you're into where the artillery is located.
Okay.
How do you think they've lost so many of these systems in Lyman and these others? They moved through.
So the
And
argument
in
here is
Kherson,
the Russian intelligence will not know when the Ukrainians begin to move. They will not have
They
time to
might.
react.
They haven't done so well so far, but they might.
They sent up a new satellite a few weeks ago, a month ago.
Well, one of them just crashed Earth that they sent up in October, by the way.
Wyatt.
They've been moving it up and we sent them a whole bunch of
Wyatt.
Yes.
You know, I'm sorry. Sorry for interrupting. You know, I love all the speculation and all, but it would actually be really interesting. I'm sure that there is a contract Russian soldier somewhere out there who came from the front line and won't be back after a while, who would be more than willing to share his experiences in the show and just clarify everything we're speculating on. Or maybe even a Ukrainian. That would be really interesting.
No one would believe
that's
it.
it.
It's a problem.
No one would believe
That's a good idea. You'd have to have video of it, of your actual.
Did you see those poor soldiers in the DPR getting beat with a stick by their commander yesterday? Holy shit.
No, didn't see that. Sorry.
You didn't see that?
Sorry?
I'm sure
It
it's
was on
not as bad as
Telegram.
having
They
their
were-
commander
they
shoot
were
them
beat
for
like
wanting to fall
20.
back.
It's true. They ran, and so he beat like 20 of them with a stick while they were held at
when they put out a
gunpoint.
recording of a so-called Russian crying home. Now, those are my favorite propaganda. Like the Ukrainians don't speak Russian, and they can't just fabricate a call. I don't know why.
Now,
people
this is a
share that.
video on Telegram of a DPR commander beating his.
Wait, you think
troops.
all those phone calls are fake?
Obviously, gonna happen.
They seem pretty realistic.
Yeah, they do seem pretty.
He's
They're
just
talking to
troops
their
calling
girls.
home.
They're
That's
saying,
very common.
"Bring me home a washing machine." They all want washing machines, and they're in toilets because they don't have any toilets in their houses, I guess, in
Go
Russia.
watch the companies that produce them. They're on video producing the chips you're talking about. Like literally, they're on video. They have factories building these chips. You guys are
So I don't
literally
know why you're
talking
in
about
Canada,
chips
man. Why don't you
that
go
are
home
on
to Russia?
video.
What I heard is Russia does have chip
No,
manufacturing
I'm telling
capacity,
you the
but
truth. You're not telling
still
me
the
how
majority
Ru-
of their
Russia's
chips
losing
are
more men. You're
imported.
saying, trust
So
me.
even among the higher nanometer chips that they are able to produce, they don't produce 100% of what they need.
I believe that.
That's what I heard.
As
They
far
only have
as
a few chip plants.
as far as like the
And you are
the washing
you are
machine
correct.
story
I'm not
goes,
saying
I don't
you
believe
are
they're
correct on
mass
that.
stealing washing machines. I could believe that they took washing machine chips out so that way they could study them and produce those. I could believe that. But as far as them like needing to buy washing machines,
All armies loot as part of their. All armies have looted over the history as part of their pay.
Okay, I
It's
agree
always
with you.
happened.
But there has been talk
The
of they're
chips-
looting as many washing machines, as many refrigerators as they can to take the chips out. I could believe they took a couple because Russia probably doesn't know.
What about the poor raccoon? And here's some.
Guys, the chips that they're producing are for the military. The chips that are going into products that are being sold, those get imported. I agree with you. They're not producing chips for the whole country. What I'm talking about, chips that they're producing domestically, that they're using in their military industrial complex, they produce those. You can literally go look up the companies. They're not hiding. They're there. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Leo,
Yeah, but I mean, we don't really know. We don't know if 100% are covered or 50% or what. There's no doubt they're making some chips. But are you arguing that they have absolutely no shortage of chips for military purposes?
The point I'm trying to make is the chips that are used in majority of the military equipment is not the most complicated chips to produce. That's the point I'm trying to make. These are not something that are crazy to make. That's what I'm trying to tell you guys. The West is 2 or 3 generations ahead of Russia, China, and the rest of these countries. I'm not denying that. What I'm trying to say is the chips that are used in majority of the products can be produced.
Most advanced chips in the world come out of
someone arguing against
Taiwan,
that?
Vaun, go ahead, Vaun. You haven't got a chance to speak in a while.
I was just going to say, back to the possible Zaporizhzhia offensive. I think another thing that people need to think about too is all the damage done to the fuel infrastructure in Ukraine. How much fuel are they going to be able to get together to do this offensive? Because they're going to have to be able to move. Because if they don't move, they're dead. And like William was saying, their only option with no air cover and shitty artillery is just to run as fast as they can. So they're going to have fuel, and I think they probably
their artillery is not shitty. It's just not enough.
Well, that's what I meant. I mean, they just don't have what they need to do that, right? And if they try to gather any kind of support, with fuel and stuff, that's obviously going to be targeted. So I really just wonder how much maneuvering they're going to actually be able to do if they do decide to start something, because I mean, they've been hurting for diesel for months, supposedly. And I mean, I'm not saying they don't have any, and it's not coming from NATO sources. But I mean, if they go out into a big offensive, I just don't see them getting the fuel they'll need to make that kind of a run.
That's probably why they haven't gotten Abrams, because that doesn't even run on diesel. That runs on jet fuel.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
just if the Russians pull back, then the Ukrainians will move forward, I think.
See, this is why Ukraine can sustain this kind of war. They're fighting a rich man's war right now because they're using rich man's weapons. Russia's not. Russia's not even. I mean, how many of the new generation tanks and fighters has Russia been really rolling out with this war? Even if you say that Russia doesn't have a lot of it, Russia's not fighting a rich man's war. Russia's fighting a poor man's war. Russia could probably pull out a bunch of the actual Cold War era tech that they have mothballed and flood the field with
T-64s.
Yeah, they've been doing that.
Flood the field with it.
In Russia, that's
even if they lose 10 of those tanks, it would still be cheaper than losing one Abrams. If Ukraine was given an Abrams, it would be.
But the problem is, if you're a Russian soldier, I'd rather have my shirt than a damn sit in any armor in Ukraine right now. I'd rather be a foot soldier than ride around in anything. Things. As soon as they get shelled, they jump out of those things and run. Yeah, it's crazy.
Russia is not allowed to use all the weapons because it's a special military operation. So they
called it a war today. He called it a war today.
Yeah, actually, it was a couple days ago. I think he's been referring
was it 2 days ago?
That doesn't matter.
Yeah,
because,
I think
so. They are not allowed to use all.
But guys, even if they have all this Cold War technology that they can pull out, they've already had that capability, and they've still been losing ground continuously for months. So why do you think it's going to... They're like, oh, I just remembered we have all these tanks, and now it's going to make a difference. Okay, that's obviously not going to happen.
We have to remember
with all the ground with all the ground they've been gaining, they must have been absolutely slaughtering the Russian soldiers on the ground, obviously, right?
Or they
because to gain ground, you have to massacre whoever's there.
No, I think Russia has been retreating, right?
They've run too.
So they've gained ground.
Well, hold on. So would you say you're wrong that Ukraine did not have to necessarily massacre hundreds of thousands of troops to gain that ground? Would you admit that?
I didn't say hundreds of thousands. I'm simply saying, to gain ground of the enemy, you have to kill the enemy. That's just...
No, that's not right.
In Iraq, we won the whole Iraq war. The whole army quit. Except for a few Republican guards, they all quit.
Yeah, because we bombed them to hell. That's why.
Yeah, they quit because they got
but they also didn't want to be there.
In the air.
They didn't want to be there.
Bombed to hell. Yeah.
Okay? The U.S. doesn't win its wars on the ground; they win it in the air. If Russia really wanted
Right.
to,
So,
they would just
but
unleash
we're
their
talking
air
about
force
Ukraine
from
and
the
Russia.
Ukraine.
We're talking about Ukraine and Russia, though. Okay. So
Yeah. But you can win
Ukraine is
by
gaining
retreating.
land. Russia's retreating. Okay, but Russia's not losing personnel. Is Ukraine losing personnel?
Everyone's losing.
In those
personnel.
offensives, I
This is
don't
a
think
war.
they did. I think it was mainly Russia just withdrawing, right?
But Ukraine didn't
No,
lose
not Museum
many-
and
The
Lyman. They
main
caught
the
them
main
with
troop
their pants
attrition
down
is in the
there,
places like Bakhmut, where it's been a standstill for
Yeah,
months.
that's
The huge
just-
territory
that's
gains
bad
either
there.
way are not coming at the expense of huge casualties, as far as I've heard.
They
As
could
far
fight
as
in
I have,
Bakhmut
they
for
have
10
come at
years
the
and it
expense
would
of
stay the
massive
same,
Ukrainian
just going
casualties
back and
because
forth
they
like
move
that.
across open areas and they get bombarded.
Guys, tell me
Okay,
if you
so
agree
if we
with
admit that, just to continue the conversation, what's your point?
My point is Ukraine then winning if they're losing a lot of personnel to gain this ground without actually doing any physical damage to the Russian military, I guess, machine?
Well, last time I was on, I said the same thing about you have to define your victory criteria. If you want to regain the land and it costs lives, then yeah, that is winning.
It's an
If Ukraine's goal is to regain their territory, then regaining the territory is winning. I don't know how else to explain it.
But that's
If
why I'm
Ukraine
asking that,
loses
right?
10 million troops and Russia loses 0, but Ukraine regains all of their territory, they've won by their criteria.
But you're drawing a line. Hold on,
territory.
no. You're drawing a line. If you again using this insane scenario, right? 10 million troops. Now you have no troops, and Russia losing 0 can just walk all the way back to whatever they originally had. So I get what your statement is, but a victory criteria needs to look at the long term, not just like a single line.
Yeah,
right?
I mean that was a hyperbolic statement. I don't think you're saying they've lost 10 million troops.
No.
Right?
But,
So,
okay, so
I mean,
let's-
the point is Ukraine can lose a lot more troops, but still be winning. And I don't think that it's necessarily the case that if they lose, I don't know, a more realistic number. I think so far people are saying they've lost 100,000, 200,000. I don't
Closer
think
to
that's at the
200.
point where Russia can just walk in and take everything without a fight. So
yes,
the fight's
I
going to
agree.
continue.
That's not there yet.
I agree with you, but the best troops they're going to have are going to probably die once they take the rest of the Donbass. Their best troops, their most hardened veteran troops are going to die. Either die or be severely injured, which is...
Well, the
that's
Russian,
entirely
the elite
possible.
of the Russian
100,000
army's gone.
Okay. if
They
you have
died
100,000 troops,
at an airport north of Kyiv.
If you have 100,000 troops that have died since the start of this conflict, that means that even if you're generous and you say half, that means half of those veteran troops have died. Half of the troops that have actually been dead are veterans. You mean tell me you have 50,000 grizzled veteran troops that are dead? 50,000 out of how many? How many active troops did Ukraine have at the start of this war? Active that were veteran
240.
troops.
Active veteran, maybe like 90, 100.
Okay,
It's
so
about
say they have 100,000 veterans.
300,000 at the beginning.
Say
But
they have
that's
100
all personnel. That's not
Okay, but even still,
battle
all
hardened.
right. But that means that you
Civilian
had
fighters.
100,000 that were dead. Say you have the law of numbers is what? It's 3 to 1. Dead, wounded to dead. Correct? It's 3
It's
to
the
1.
average. It's the average.
Okay.
It's the average.
So say you have 400,000 that are either dead or out of commission. Okay. And even if I'm being generous, I'm saying 50,000 of those were your vets that are dead. You have 50,000 vets left. Your vets, your best troops, are going to be in either Bakhmut. They're probably going to be They're probably going to be in Kramatorsk. They're probably going to be fighting in Liman. Your best troops are going to be right now where it's hottest. They're not going to be near Kiev, worrying about invading Belarusians. They're not going to worry about that. They're not going to be in Sumy. They're not going to be in Kharkiv. I mean, they might be. You know, maybe you probably have your best troops also fighting in Kherson. Maybe if they're still doing more offensives there. That's where your best troops are going to be at. They're going to be fighting in the hottest zones, and the troops that are going to be dying are going to be a mixture of the troops that are already your established veterans and the troops that are training in the UK that they're bringing in over to that are being trained because they're training what was it 10,000 every 3 months was the number.
Well, they're
they put
training
out.
in Spain. They're training in Germany. They're training everywhere.
It's like 10,000 every 3 months. It's something like that, right?
Yeah, it's not
You
much.
can't. And if Ukraine is losing troops at a clip of what was the last number? It was like 800 a week, right? Something insane like that.
Those are Ukrainian numbers, so whatever you
They
want to
were-
do with that.
Okay, but even if it's 800 troops a week that they're losing, that means they're losing 2,400 a month. You cannot sustain that even if you have trained troops, even if half of those troops are fresh
Oh,
troops
hold
that are
on.
dying.
2,400 a month. If that's your worst case number, that's sustainable for many years.
Yeah, they
What
have
do you
20
mean?
million men in Ukraine.
Yeah, I mean,
But
you
not all
guys.
men are not all
No,
men
they
can
have
fight
not
though.
20 million.
Ukraine is
Well,
not
you
a
can
tiny
keep pulling them.
country.
Not all
Ukraine
men are
is not a
fighting
tiny
age
country.
men.
You can turn
They've
them
already
into
had
No, they're
what?
not all. They're not all.
They've already had Ukraine's already had what 18 million people leave the country. 18 million.
women and children.
Okay, women and children,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
That okay, but that would include the number of men that's in there. They include males. When they say men
Rillo,
in there, they're not saying they have
Rillo,
20
there's
million
zero
fighting age men.
chance,
No,
zero chance
men
that
of
Ukrainians
military
have
age
lost
were
more men than
prevented
Russia.
from leaving as refugees. Last I heard,
Zero.
that was a law they passed very early on that men were
Yeah.
not allowed to leave.
But fighting
So
age men just
if
means
10
you're legally
million
an adult.
people have
That's what it means.
left, that's pretty much all women, children, and maybe old men. I don't know what exactly the cutoff was.
Males of age means that males of age just means you're an adult male. That doesn't mean you have some fighting capability. That just means
I
you're
believe
above
the
age.
current draft is
William.
going. The current draft is pulling 18-year-olds to 60-year-olds. So I guess that's how you would calculate that.
Yeah, there's 20 plus million men.
Yeah, there's a lot of men, and they haven't left, and they're according to opinion polls,
They're
Ukraine
pissed.
is like #1 in the world right now in terms of who is willing to fight for their country. Like
They're
higher than the
pissed.
U.S., higher than Russia. They're #1 right now.
So let
So
me ask you this: you think that
they're
you
not
think that
grizzled veterans or whatever, but
Okay.
any guy with a gun
Can I
can
ask-
kill
can I
a
just
grizzled
ask-
veteran.
once Ukraine
Right?
hits a million
Can I ask one
deaths,
question?
once Ukraine hits a million
Can I ask
deaths, do you
this
think there's gonna be
question?
men who want to keep on fighting? Once they hit a million,
Russia will hit a
deaths-
million before the Ukrainians do, and they're invading.
Once
The
they
rich
You
hit a
think the
million
Russian
deaths,
people are going to
Ukraine
stand for a
won't fight.
million dead before the Ukrainians are defending their homes? They're going to fight
Yeah,
to
they're
the
defending
death.
their homes, guys. And whether you think it's propaganda or not, the
They're
things
not- they're
that
gonna
Russia
fight
has
to the
been
death.
accused of doing in Ukraine, again, whether it's propaganda or not, everyone believes it, right? If you
That's
see
propaganda.
these horror stories about
It's
Bucha
propaganda.
or whatever, yeah, and like I said, if you admit that it's propaganda, if all the Ukrainian men believe it, it doesn't matter that it's propaganda. They're still going to fight.
Doesn't
for it.
matter. Propaganda,
So,
their relatives are
I'm not
dead.
arguing whether it's
Their relatives
propaganda
are
or not.
dead.
It doesn't matter.
Bro,
Can I
who's
ask a
buying into
question?
propaganda when they're in a cold ass ditch being shelled? Are they like, oh my
Oh,
god,
you'd be
this propaganda is
surprised.
working. Slava Ukraine.
Rillo,
Yeah, I'm all for
Rillo,
it.
if you think the Ukrainians have
Yeah.
a morale problem, you should look at the Russians. I mean,
Yeah,
they're
the Russians are in the
getting
same
beat with
ditch,
sticks to
also
fight,
dying,
and they've got troops behind them
and
shooting
they're
them
not
if they
fighting for
retreat.
anything.
William, this entire conversation, you've used anecdotal videos with almost zero actual physical reported evidence. And every
Ask DPA. Do I link the videos all the time on my comments?
The
Ask
morale is so
DPA.
low, they're doing
I link
human
the
waves.
videos all the time.
You can link a video, and this goes for both sides. It can be fake. It is everything you see in this war, if it has a Ukrainian label or a Russian label, if you see it, you've seen it for a reason. They're showing it on purpose. Okay?
Yeah.
You have done, I'm sorry, I really am, because I don't like snapping at people. You have not a single time stated a objective fact. Not one time.
That's an exaggeration.
Is there
But
an
Alan, I
objective
would
fact
say to
in
you,
war?
I asked
you
him
don't
to
know
explain his point.
any
He never
objective
did.
facts about either side. You're not
Yeah,
there.
is there any
You're not a
objective
general.
facts?
You
William,
don't
I'll
have
give
Are
you
you
an
telling me what the
information.
Russian government
That's
Now
fair.
We're all
says
guessing.
is
We're all
objective?
speculating.
Bigger
Okay,
casualties.
Everyone's talking. Okay, I don't know anything. Let's see how this goes. We all have our predictions.
That's why I like quoting DPA. They either take it or they don't.
Right.
And when I said they
That's
take
okay,
your
and I'll
Sun
back
City,
up
everybody
and
was
say
like,
that.
"You're crazy, you're crazy." Guess what? They took it.
I never
They
said
still haven't
that.
taken the other half.
This one.
Who
No.
said they would never take Izium? Who said they would never take Lyman? Who said they would never
Can I ask
retreat
you guys
from
a question?
Kiev?
I never
up
made
till
these.
a couple
I've been in
months
here
ago-
since the very beginning with DPA. People said they'll never retreat from Kiev. Kiev's fallen. Boom. Then they said, I'll never take Izium. Boom. Never take Lyman. Boom. They would never retreat from here, son. They're going and they're going to take over Odessa.
Mhm.
That's what they
Yeah,
were
but we
saying.
didn't know they were going to leave a few thousand men on that part of the line. We didn't know that.
You know what? No, let's
They spread
broaden
themselves
this
thin.
out.
They moved their
that's
best
exactly-
troops and they had 20,000 there. Then they
But that's
retreat.
exactly William's
So,
Why are you
point.
trying to talk? Why are you trying to talk? Why
Let
are
me
you
ask
trying to
my
talk?
question. Let me ask my
forget-
question.
So
So why?
that's why-
Why
So
speak though?
up to-
Why speak? Go ahead.
So
Go ahead.
that's exactly what's William's point, you see, because like no one knows what is the truth. So no one knows that the Russians will actually run out of soldiers because of the contract had finished, then they left only militias defending, and then the Ukrainians have a
we know
breakthrough.
they weren't there though.
No one expected. I didn't expect that because the Russians had been defending pretty decently well, like for example in Kherson. And then, but the thing is, every time we hear of a Russian reinforcement, the next thing is a Russian withdrawal. So he has a point where
Yeah, he does, but that's not what I said, and you guys ran away with before I could even finish my sentence.
Go.
All right.
Do it.
I stated you have not stated this objective fact, and I never claimed to know them. That's the first thing. Okay? Now, secondly, you have continuously stated things that you have said. You have repeatedly stated, as if it is a fact, as if it cannot be challenged, as if
No
there's
sources.
It doesn't matter about sources.
You can't really
It
quote
doesn't.
sources in the live
Right,
discussion.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough.
I mean, really, you can't speak from a point of authority if we're all going to admit that we can't speak from a point of authority.
Alan, I
tried.
totally agree with you, but wouldn't you say that the pro-Russian side often does that? I mean, how many people just in this discussion have made statements about what's going to happen with no evidence and no admission that it's just speculation? The whole point of this is speculation, though, so who cares?
Okay, sure, it's fine if it's speculation, but it's the volume that it comes out at, right? If Vaun says two things and some people are like, I don't know, and if I say if I get out loud and everyone's like, oh, that doesn't make any sense, and then I, for the rest of the conversation I sit back and I listen and I try to learn, that's one thing. But William, I'm sorry, you have not at all sat back and said, hey, you know what? Let's try to analyze your information compared to mine and find that middle ground of truth. You have continuously said there is only my truth. That's why I can't really really push these boundaries, because I don't know where to go.
Well,
it's not that,
guys. I don't think it's fair to single out one person and have this kind of discussion. I mean, I think we should just move on to a point. Like, do you have an argument to make that counters what William said that we could respond to, rather than just criticizing
30 minutes have been?
him personally?
Is this not what this whole 30-minute conversation has been?
The past 1 hour has been, let's grill William session. But the thing
Okay,
is,
you know what? I'll
Alan
apologize
said-
for that.
but-
You know what, William? No, I should not be calling you out like that. No, it's anybody who does that, right? But I'm using you as an example because for like in my head, gotta remember, I have these headphones on. I hear only the voices of this chat, right? And I'm hearing your voice over and over again. So it's in my head. I have that bias that I'm kind of, it's data set, right? But John, you are right. It is everybody. See, I'll step back and I'll admit that.
William's living rent free in your head, Alan.
Yeah,
I think
because this is on my head.
I think I don't think so much that we've made predictions and stuff. I think a lot of us just sit around and we talk and we look at the situation and we're like, well, why is Russia doing this? This doesn't make sense. I mean, I was in the army. I was on tanks. To me, I'm like, I was really surprised the Russians didn't go out and bomb the shit out of everything like they do and then roll. But they're obviously doing different tactics. And I don't think so much people are making predictions like, oh, they'll never take Kherson and stuff. It's just that if you look at the situation and the forces arrayed, you're like, surely the Russians will never withdraw and give up this territory. But obviously they decided it was feasible and it was better for them to give it up and pull back. And I can't say because I don't remember anyone making it, but I think that's a lot of it. We sit around and like, where's these 20,000 or 30,000 paratroopers? Where's these aircraft? Where's all, we see the videos of tanks coming in. And I think a lot of us are like, well, they have to be getting ready for an offensive here or there, and I think that's just a lot. We just sit around and we kind of shoot the shit and try to spitball what's going on. And, maybe it's interpreted sometimes as a prediction or not, but I think a lot of it's just us sitting around trying to figure out what's going on or why is this guy doing this? I mean, you look at some of the stuff Ukraine's doing, like those assaults down in Kherson and shit that were just ridiculously suicidal. And somebody who might be in the military with experience is going to be like, what the hell are they doing? I was in the U.S. Army. I'm trained to the NATO standard. We'd never fucking do stupid shit like that. But and then you look at the Russians the same way. They're not practicing their traditional doctrine. They're doing things. They're pulling back. They're not doing like idiotic things that they might have done in World War II, where they didn't give a shit about casualties. So I think that's a lot of it. I think a lot of people are just trying to figure out what the hell's going on, and obvious moves don't get done. Less obvious moves get done. Things out of left field happen that you don't even think.
I agree. One thing that's frustrating for me as a Ukraine supporter, talking with pro-Russians, is what you're saying, Vaun, is exactly right. There's all these things that are kind of inexplicable, but it doesn't seem like it ever decreases the confidence of the pro-Russians. It's like, well, we don't understand why any of this happened, and yet there's no universe where Russia doesn't win this. I mean, that's such a common thing that I hear.
Let me answer that question.
I will only say,
since up till a couple of months ago, would you say that Russia was fighting with a smaller force this whole time? The amount of troops?
Up to a couple months ago, were they fighting with a smaller force?
Till they mobilized and they stabilized the line. Would you say they've been fighting with less troops?
Honestly, I don't know. I don't know how big the Ukrainian military was. And actually, I have a question for you guys, because you guys know a lot more about this than me.
Kind of was around 700,000 to 1 million. That's what everybody claimed.
Ukraine had up to 1 million troops?
That's the highest number I heard.
I believe everyone agreed it was about 700,000 is what they started the war with.
And then whatever. John just ran away from the question. Like, I'm not going to answer this question.
No, I mean, I don't know, so I don't want to just make something up.
The point I'm going to make is, if you add up everybody together on the Russian side, let's say 300,000. So they were pushing them back all the way till summer, till the trained troops and the new NATO equipment came in, correct? So you could say this was a type of a game changer. So the game was changed. Then Russia went on the defensive, and they had to change the game. So what did they do? They mobilized. Now we have 300,000 plus troops training, mobilized, plus some that entered the line. They stabilized the line, and they seem to be pushing back a little bit now. So when you ask, why is Russia confident? Because Russia can keep doing this. They can keep escalating. They can keep countering in any way.
See, that's my thing. I mean, that's the way I look at it. Is just, barring some weird, unforeseen event, I just think most people look at it like, in the long run, there's no way Russia's going to lose, because they just aren't going to allow themselves to lose. They'll do whatever they got to do to win, probably up to and short of nuclear weapons, which I don't think either side wants that to go. And I don't think realistically right now there's a scenario where that would happen unless NATO got really involved. But that's just what I think about that. I just think that.
Would you guys agree that Putin calling it an SMO, a special military operation, going in with 190,000 Russian troops, we're not talking about the rest of the groups, that was a small force compared to what Ukraine had. So he had not a war that he was thinking about. He was thinking about something else. We can guess whatever that was, and you could even argue that it failed. But the war hasn't really started up till now. People are dying. But what's about to come now, when you see all this equipment and all these troops surrounding the country, waiting for an offensive, whatever they're going to do with them, you got to admit that this is going to be pretty rough for Ukraine, no matter which way you slice this.
Yeah, I mean, that's guaranteed.
Let me respond to the first part. So you said Ukraine had 700,000 troops, Russia had 190,000 or something, so you didn't think of it as the war actually starting. I would disagree with that, just because concentration of forces also matters, not just absolute size, right? So if Ukraine has 700,000 troops, but they are not on the war stance, right? Because nobody believed Russia was about to invade, except America. And they are spread out throughout the country. They're in the Donbass. They're just everywhere. Russia had the concentration of forces that they needed to go towards Kiev. And they had that 30-mile column of equipment and all. Like, they got in. They did it. They got like 90% of the way there. So they had the element of surprise. They had the concentration of forces. I don't think it's fair to say that it didn't count, because they didn't have enough people.
I'm not disagreeing with you. What I'm trying to say is whether you're trying to overthrow the government or whatever you're trying to do, that's not necessarily going like, yeah, it's war, but it's not war like what we're about to see now. Like we're about to see a big war. Like Russia's about to bring a lot of equipment and firepower and men into Ukraine. This is good. Think about it.
What he's trying to say was that Russia wasn't 100% in initially, and over the time they have had to increase their involvement more than they wanted to. Originally, they just went in with 10-15%.
Because the game changed.
60%.
I think also, I think if you look at Kiev and some of the other places where they had the long advances, I think it was Wyatt that probably said it in the beginning, but those were all considered high risk, high reward operations that didn't work. Absolutely. I mean, if they could have got to Kiev and hit it and scared the government into surrendering, that would have worked perfect for them. And I think they were trying to do it on the cheap because they thought Ukraine would buckle. They obviously didn't buckle, and they probably hit that forest line just north of Kiev, and that's where it all stopped. Because, I mean, we saw the videos for weeks on end of them handing out every kind of freaking weapon you could think of, like candy, to anybody that showed up in Kiev. So you had all those idiots out there, plus the trained military. And obviously,
they weren't idiots. That's
I mean,
citizen defense. That's totally legit. Just like
yeah,
the
that's what I'm
Japanese
saying. But I mean,
America in World War II, they said there's a rifle behind every blade of grass. I mean, that's real.
Yeah, I think they took that shot because they thought that was what was going to happen, and they could get it on the cheap. And now, like you said, the game changed, and Russia's adapted and changed to the game, and they have the advantage. They're going to always have more pieces to throw in the game. So it's just not going to end until Russia ends it, because I don't think the U.S. or NATO is going to let Ukraine negotiate. And Russia, I would believe at this point, they're probably like, unless something bad happens where they start losing a lot of troops, like if they can, clean up Bakhmut or whatever. I mean,
hold on. Let Wyatt speak.
I think they're just going to be like, fuck your negotiations, until they get in a better position.
Let Wyatt speak. Go ahead.
So we're gonna let's say goodbye to the main channel. We're gonna do this only purely on our DPA IRL channel. So for those of you guys who want to continue to watch the debate and discussion here, please go to the DPA IRL. I'm trying to boost the channel. Bye bye main channel.
It was a nice to have a conversation. I gotta go do some work real quick, but maybe I'll jump on later if you guys are still around. Thanks a lot, Dave. See you guys.
Bye.
Hey, William, I've got a question, because I remember you say a while ago. Is William still here? Oh, there he is.
Yeah.
Hello?
He's muted. But
he just